Good evening, morning, afternoon, whatever applies to you, and welcome back to the first EuroLeague of 2026. I am joined, as always and forever, by Mr. Keire and Nymaera. That's rather ominous, wasn't it? To preview the LEC in apparently the only possibly appropriate way, which is obviously a power rankings. So yeah, we're going to do that. But before we do that, we're not going to tackle my patented would you rather. I know. Don't worry. It's not new year, new me getting rid of it. No. It will be back. But I just thought, as it is the new year, I would like you two to come up for, obviously you don't actually have to follow it, just a hypothetical New Year's resolution for the other person.
Oh, for each other.
Yeah, exactly. Not for yourself. That's too easy. A
Um,
New Year's resolution for each other.
Hmm.
And I will sit here and judge.
I have a comedic one, which would be quite funny. This is given a suggestion by someone I was talking to who watches the show. Keire, you're gonna have to up your accent to the point where like auto subtitles kick in. That's your New Year's resolution.
Right. Okay. Not bad. Not bad. I'm trying to think of a good one for. I'm trying to think of like a good one for Nymaera.
I'll actually think of a good one now. I'll have to think of a good one.
Have you got one for us, Rich, that you could apply? Have you got one on the mind?
As that new viewer said, who clearly only ever watched the one episode ever, Kira's banned from using iPads because obviously he's always just filming episodes.
Oh yeah.
From his
Oh
iPad,
yeah.
So,
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Man.
Get out of here with that. How dare you? Couldn't even be bothered to get a proper webcam.
I don't know. I think like a good one would actually be like make your way to one in-person league event, Keire. I think that'd be a good one for you. It'd be really cool. For you,
Oh, there we go. Actually,
yeah, I think you would benefit from that, and I think that I think that'd be.
Wait,
fun.
that's a
Now,
good point. Where are the international tournaments this year? Actually, I have no idea. I actually have no idea.
First stand
Worlds
is
is in New
Brazil.
York.
Worlds is NA.
Oh, yeah.
First stand is Brazil. I think MSI is Korea.
All right, send Kira to the favelas. Then that's
But, mate,
resolution
by the way,
of
all I'm
what?
going to say is I would get on very well in Brazil. Like I would get on well. We got similar cultural like ties. You know what I mean? Who the Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys?
Oh yeah, capoeira.
The Gracies.
Yeah.
Oh, the Gracies, yeah, the Gracies.
The Gracies Scottish. That's all I got to say. Scottish sailor. The Gracies.
All right.
Go look it up. He was a Scottish guy that like beached his ship in South America somewhere, and he was like a wrestler on a ship or something. I don't know. Like, but Gracie's Scottish.
Someone
That's all you
fact
need to
check
know.
that. I'm just going to say, based on skin tone alone, that seems highly unlikely. But hey,
That would be called. I thought, right, mate, you can. That's as simple. Their ancestors came from Paisley, Scotland, so you can. What do you call it? You can fact check it as mate.
those are the most tanned native Scottish people I've ever seen in my life. That's all I'll
I
say.
mean, yeah, like I know that like Patagonia in same continent, I guess that's got Welsh roots, right? Because that's like the one place where
True.
Welsh speaking is
Yeah.
that Welsh is spoken outside of Wales itself.
The source for that, I don't know, Wikipedia. I remember just reading it years ago and storing that as an interesting factoid. Oh, here's a good one
Hit me with it.
for Nymaera. Would they call New Year resolution for you? Do some of your historical content. Like actually make a piece of your historical content this year. Like actually like because you're always brainstorming them with me, right? And they're really really good. But
Yes.
perfect is the enemy of the good. I think you need to do a like one that's not perfect. And then you'll learn
Yes.
all those from
Funnily
that one,
enough,
and you'll find it easier to do the next one. There you go.
is actually so. Funnily enough, over the break, obviously, like a lot of stuff has happened with my career over the off season. I've had to scramble for what I'm doing next. That might come up in the episode. We'll see. But yeah, I guess it'd be a little preview, not to hijack the show, but I do want to do a series of Wolfie VGC, like the guy that does all the Pokemon content.
Yeah.
He did a
Yes.
whole series of videos which are like, what are the best fire type Pokemon ever? What are the best, and just did it for every type. I want to do a series on that, on what are the best like marksman champion of all time, best mage champions of all time, and go through
Oh, that's
historically.
a good one.
So I've tentatively put down a list of, because I started with marksman because that's the easiest one for me to get my head around, like top 10 marksman champion of all time, and kind of go through a 20-30 minute video on the vague history. Can't go into every result of from then to now.
That's a good bit of content.
I know.
Nymaera.
I have actually been thinking about it. I just got to script it out. I need to learn how to video edit myself on DaVinci Resolve, and then at some point in the next X amount of time. Obviously, New Year's resolutions. So this year, at some point, that'll come out.
I command thee to make this content.
Okay, that is my resolution. And that's a good one. Right, fair play, fair play.
By the way, did you, aside from the hypothetical ones we're throwing out now, do either of you ever do resolutions, or is that just something that you just don't ever?
Not anymore. No.
I've done 3, and I've completed all 3 of them.
Oh, cool.
One of them somewhat private, so I'll like move on from it. The easiest one is I'm actually ambidextrous. I can write with. I could at one point write with both hands. Cause I broke this right hand, so I then taught myself to write with my left. And then the other one was, and it's a funny one. When I was younger, I made it to my mum, is like, be a nicer person, and that was like be a nicer person, because I didn't always used to.
Everyone in chat right now is like, "Whoa, he's still got that one to go, hasn't he? Fucking hell!"
No, I used to be worse. Like I used to be like I used to be like way more like pernickety and like snide. I used to argue very dishonestly as well. Like I would like lay like traps for like people. Like I knew they would like fall into it and like be like happy that they like fell into.
No, that's just called winning, Keire. That's just called winning. And,
no,
we should still strive to win.
It's winning in the right way, and like
by hook or by crook, Nymaera. By hook or by crook.
Over the last few years, because I've been so overworked and stressed and whatever, I've definitely noticed myself like interacting with people differently myself. So I can at least compare myself from 5 years ago to now and think, okay, I probably would have given someone a bit more. Like I would have had the better benefit of the doubt for someone before. I'd like to actually get that back at some point. So I can understand that.
The final point on this was, I remember, and it's actually kind of funny. It's like and here's where analogies are good, Rex. You know what I mean? It's like the MMA thing, right? Well, I'm already the best boxer in the world, right? Okay, so I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna beat you at your wrestling. You know what I mean? I'm gonna come in and beat you at your strength. I don't even need to like cheese you, leg kick you. I'm gonna come in and beat you at your like main strength. Or like you're gonna come at me. Would you call it where you're like grappling or something like that? No, I've got something else. Or your jiu-jitsu, I've got something. You know what I mean? I'm gonna come in. Doesn't matter where you go. I'm gonna beat you. So, you know what I mean? It made me a more well-rounded like argumenter as well. There you go.
Kira's the MMO character searching for a raid group, and everyone's like, "Bro, you've got 6 out of 10 and everything. You are absolutely useless." Anyway, moving swiftly on. Before we do the power rankings, I feel it needs a little bit of framing, because a couple of these things as well do tangibly change how the game is going to work. So I guess that may play into certain things. First of all, obviously there's been a lot of just fundamental preseason changes to the game. I don't necessarily want us to all go through all of them. I mean, we talked about some of this stuff on a previous episode anyway. But now that it's sort of had time to marinate and so forth, I want your guys sort of, I guess, biggest... What do you think are the biggest fundamental changes or things that like people should be looking out for, and how that will potentially change these matches in 2026?
Pop's absolutely fucking off the scales, like bonkers broken. Proxying is absolutely off the scales, bonkers broken. Mid would have been the most absurd, most broken role ever in League of Legends, but they took away the if you empower recall, it goes on cooldown, so you cannot, even though, so...
And you can't control it either, it's just your next one and recall when it's available, it will be used.
Yes, and so, like, theoretically, with the speed coming out of base, you were going to be able to, like, come out, do something, reset, get all your health and resources back, and be back onto the map quicker than any other role in the game, because your recall was going to be, like, 4 seconds ahead of everyone. It was going to be the most bonkers, abusable shit ever, but it goes on to, like, a cooldown. Laning doesn't matter as much anymore, because when you die, your reset gets you back to the lane so much quicker. I think what's really going to be, and this is the final one, and this is really important, guys, because in pro play this is going to change fucking ever. The game starts earlier, so because the game starts earlier, you can get more full clears in, and so junglers are actually almost or are level 6 when dragon spawns, rather than being level 4.
I hadn't even considered that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
because objective timers haven't changed, but the way you start earning gold earlier. Wow, I hadn't even considered that.
Bro, this changes. This is the one. This is like fucking Pandora's box Mark II. By the way, this is like fucking the game.
Wait, doesn't that also mean that you hit level 6 for grubs?
Yeah, bro, it's crazy.
Does that happen? Is that enough time?
I've not got the timings down to an art form. I'm just because I've been like going back and watching old season stuff, doing research on the new season stuff about picks and stuff. It's been really hard, but mate, it's It's fucking crazy. So they're the big ones that I see, Rich, that people should be looking at. You're gonna have junglers basically being laner levels at fights with their ultimates. So, you know, AP carry junglers like Evelyn, Karthus, like that, you know what I mean? Like Talon, like these big, like, effect on the games. Powerful ultimates, able to burst one target. Huge. And then the repercussion of this, one side note, ADCs, very powerful role, a lot of the gold, but because of the level disparity, ADCs have to be very careful with their positioning. ADCs die like that.
And I think one of the things which is really helping the whole AD carry thing in general is that effectively no one can leave their lanes for a while, which is also why proxying is so important, is because there's a video visualizing it. It's on Twitter by Noam Watley, the Tom Kench guy, Tom Kench top lane guy. Effectively, you have to be stood very tight to your lane in terms of the area of it to get the passive tick up in terms of your lane quest. And if you, for instance, if you recoil too close to the wall in the brush into bot lane or top lane, you can actually be outside that area. And if you're in alcove, it's also outside of it. The reason why this applies to proxying is that also if you go behind your turret, this also affects that too. So you can't contest a proxy if someone does mess up, because well, you can, but then you lose some time on your role quest. This even, in fact, impacts stuff like mid lane, recalling out of vision behind tower. You can actually drop out of that zone very, very easily. So it means that you can't really roam to jungle skirmishes and river skirmishes that effectively. And I'm sure you will in pro, because it's still very impactful to affect those skirmishes, but it does come at more of a cost. You can't roam to another lane early, as we've seen in some metas before, and if it did become a very quick skirmish heavy meta, that would be something that you would want to see more as laners anyway. That's something that they want to do. But that basically means that laners have to stay in their lanes, and they can't really do that much outside of that to impact things, which that's been a huge change. You can't, even stuff like invading raptors can get you out of that zone, and that will lose you a fair amount of time, because then the other player will get their quest first, which in some cases will be very, very impactful.
Yeah. Now, obviously, it was also, I don't know if it was announced or leaked or whatever. I think I saw it on Sheep, so I don't know if this was actually announced or whatever. But this pro selection thing is also going to come into play.
Oh,
where
selection thing.
yeah, essentially, obviously, you know, if you were blue side previously, this means that you also get the first pick, and red side typically has counter pick or whatever. Now they're leaving the choice up to the teams. I'm actually not sure how they decide which team gets it. I assume it just evens out over a season.
So
like
basically, the way that it works is one team gets the first choice of one of these, and the other one gets the choice of the other. So basically, one team gets the choice of, do you want first pick or side selection? So geographical selection, I suppose. And then the other team will get the remainder of those opportunities. So if you choose first pick, the other team gets to choose red side or blue side on the map itself. Yeah,
but obviously, if I understand this correctly, this is going to be the first time ever where theoretically you could have red side and first pick.
Yes.
Yeah. So that fundamentally changes the game again, which is super interesting. I mean, I guess my only thing on this is, do you think this is a good idea, Keire? Do you think it's bad? Do you think it will actually change the game a lot, or do you actually think that maybe people are overthinking it and doesn't make that much odds?
Okay, so I'm pretty sure this comes from like a mobile game in China. I might be wrong that this way of picking is actually from like a mobile game in China.
Honor of Kings, yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure, Nymaera, but I'm pretty sure when I read online that this actually is really popular.
By the way, if you do actually want to see if there are any format changes, watch basically like KPL, Honor of Kings first. They had Fearless first. They've probably done this first. I'm not sure, but likely.
So I think this is like an absolute nothing burger change, only under the example where you first pick deep into Fearless under the constraints that you know about terrain scaling. Because terrain scaling champions, and so like how you're going to approach objectives might matter. Most people can't even draft well into deep Fearless games 4 and 5, so I don't see how much utility it was. I think it'll maybe affect like 3 iconic games this year. You know what I mean? There'll be like 3 moments where you're like, oh, like this choice actually was like really massive, right? Okay, because someone kind of crafts a very bespoke scenario. Is that enough for me, and under the hypothetical that is true, is that enough for me to really have changed this? Don't think so, because the side of the map...
By the way, I was actually speaking to a couple of folks involved in teams like recently, and like no specifics were mentioned, and I don't think I don't think that makes sense in this case anyway. But teams do have access to stats to show at least when champions are better on different geographical sides, and you can tell that, and then you can use that to build up. Well, actually, outside of the stats, why is, I don't know, like Misfortune better on red side than blue side or something like that? Or in the past, it used to be Gangplank on blue side than red side because he didn't have the Tribrush to gank him. Is easily stuff like that. Teams will have some ability to use this. I'm not convinced they will, but there will be some tools available to them, at least.
I mean,
as far as I'm aware,
I would
find their way to it.
I would assume that the main reason for this coming into play isn't something like a Fearless, where Fearless wasn't to do with, the difficulty of the game or anything like that necessarily. It was basically to spice it up, to change it, to make it so you're not seeing the same picks all the time. It was more meant to be a viewer experience thing. I think this is meant to be a competitive integrity thing, where there are just points in time where people are like, blue is just winning too high a percent of the games, or counter pick is too OP in this meta, and actually red is OP.
But you still get that.
But you have some modicum of control over your decisions.
No, because if you get the pick, so let's use World's Final, okay? So I'm the higher seed in World's Final, okay? So there's no coin toss. I'm the higher seed, right? I pick first, so I pick whatever I was described as being OP, okay? So I pick either first pick or counter pick, right? And then the other team picks the terrain. So because they get
but isn't it, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it the case though that, for example, let's say that blue is OP because first and foremost it has better dragon prio. Let's say that's in that meta. Dragons are super important. Getting early access to them is important.
But
so
usually blue's OP because of it's never because of that. It's because
well, it doesn't. I was just giving you a hypothetical. It doesn't matter though.
Yeah, I will say there is definitely something to be said about blue side being way better at grubs fights, and a lot. I will say geography affected a lot of games around grubs fights this year. Like, I can think of a bunch of fights with, like, anyone's Legends T1. I seem to remember a game there
but most of the
where
teams
the side slights.
The picks.
Yeah, but the point is, it's about...
No, I agree with that. But like, I do agree with what Rich is saying in terms of, like, well, it's being introduced for a different reason to Fearless. Basically, the side select being divorced from first pick is meant to offset the advantage of blue side, because I think Riot is very worried about the dominance of blue side.
Yes,
because you're trying to somehow reduce the differential between red side and blue side, which was really quite worryingly blue side favor in Fearless.
And for example,
statistically it was.
Let's say, just for the sake of argument, let's just say during a period of play, blue side just geographically is easier to play than red. Forget about draft or whatever. But at the same time, it also so happens that first pick, because I don't know, a new champ comes out or whatever, like for whatever reason, first pick is also more valued. Is to avoid double jeopardy of losing out on two separate aspects. And if you do lose out on two separate aspects, you had the ability to not do so, but you're opting in something else. I assume that's why it exists, but I don't know.
I can see that. But here's the thing: is because we've not like I'm not saying this here. It's because the ideas are like packaged together. Like, for example, right, blue side has better access to grubs. Okay, right. So I get to pick the best champion for fighting grubs because I have first pick. So I have because I know I'm blue side. Okay, I then can pick, and so it's the terrain advantage is a product of the fact that I know what pick I've got. Do you see what I mean? In terms of those two came together. When a team, I will be very, very surprised, Rich, okay, if any team this year, right, opts to pick terrain at any point in time. As in, they opt that terrain is more important than pick, even really deep into Fearless, because almost prep that teams think about is they think about drafts, not terrain or stuff like that. And so you would rather, even if you get the worst terrain, you would rather have the better prepared draft for that terrain. Do you see what I mean?
No, I know what you mean.
No. I do think sure. I don't think there's ever a time where you pick geography over first pick.
Exactly.
But it's meant to reduce the differential between the two.
Maybe this is just something I have issue with or whatever. But I always found it easier to lane from a particular side, particularly in bot lane. I always found playing downhill way harder than playing uphill, as it were.
Yeah, that's because of the camera angle. Yes, that's
Sure,
also
yeah,
a well-documented thing.
So like, I don't know. Like, again, by the way, I wouldn't be surprised at all if you're spot on and no one ever actually cares about that, and they're just always picking first pick, and it becomes completely redundant. But yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see. Maybe loads of players will come out in interviews and be like, "Thank God, I get to play uphill every game." Like,
here's the thing. I think it's a very artificial change, but I am not against doing it, right? Because there is maybe something there, and the like how much it will harm the game is like so little. As in, like, see if it's going to be really, really good, Rich. I might not know it, right? So there's all this potential upside that I can't see, right? But like, you know what I mean? I just can't see it, right? But the potential downside is like an absolute nothing burger. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
so I think the change is good because there's all this upside that I'm not like, I can't see, I can't visualize it, right? But the downside,
it's very low risk, like
very low risk, exactly. Yeah. So I'm actually pro the change. I just think it's quite like my analysis of it is like quite like fucking.
Yeah, it might be no one takes advantage of it. It might be that people do, and it's fun.
One thing which I found interesting was I saw Orcs make a tweet from the LCK cast, which I think deserves a conversation, which is if you're adding in geography selects to reduce the difference between red side and blue side, where does that leave the advantage for going through upper bracket into finals? Because if it gets to the point where having side select is less important, or there's a point in the future where it doesn't change nearly as much, does going through the upper bracket into finals leave the person who is more dominant on their way to the finals with less of an advantage than they should have? Should you then start considering? Sorry?
First map, give them both. First map of the series, they take both sides.
So you could do that, or as Orc suggested, best of 7 1-game advantage. So you start 1-0 up in maximum 6 games.
I've watched it. It's terrible.
Yeah, they used to do that in Counter-Strike, and I didn't like it.
A 6-game day is pretty rough.
Yeah, they had tournaments in Counter-Strike where one team would have, not in majors as far as I know, but where one team would have to win one less map. That was a thing in Counter-Strike.
Yeah, but it was still BO5.
I mean, what do you mean? They literally had tournaments where in the final a team would have a map advantage. Like they'd already won.
It wasn't the best of 7, but it wasn't the best of 7.
Oh right, yeah, okay.
Oh no, yeah, sorry, yeah, because that's like they done that in Dota. There was like tournaments where they gave, and like TI actually famously had that. Upper bracket had game advantage. But it was terrible.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I don't like that. I think that that's too. It'd be the equivalent of a football match, and one team starts 1-0 up. It's just like, nah, come on. We need to find better ways to give fair advantages. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, the bottom line is we'll see how it plays out, I guess, and see if people take advantage of it or not. But speaking of teams, let's get into our power rankings. Tier list,
what people are actually here for, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to go...
Hello, skippers.
We're going to go... Yes, welcome, timestamp enjoyers. We're going to go in reverse order, and what we're going to do is when someone mentions a team, we will just discuss that team there and then. We're not going to jump around as we go up the list. Who knows? Maybe we'll all have the identical list, and it will just work out beautifully anyway. I suspect not, but you never know. For the first team on our list, or I should call them the 12th team, I guess, I'm going to say we probably do all have the same team. Maybe for different reasons. Maybe because we haven't watched them that much. Maybe because we just don't rate them. So I'll just start and say I have KC Blue as my 12th place team. This is a combination of two things. Because I have watched them, but I have not watched them that much. And knowing what I know about the players, I don't see enough God of the Gaps giving benefit of the doubt here to push them any further up than where I have them. I just don't think they have... just to be frank, enough firepower to reliably compete with most of these teams. And because I haven't seen enough of them to be super definitive about them, you can say it's also partially, some of the unknown that I'm just going to put them 12th because I think it would also be maybe a bit disrespectful to other teams to put them higher when I don't really know that much about them.
Worth noting about this too, technically there was a rule in place to say if an ERL team and a Mere Masters team was playing in LEC Versus, they should have to keep at least 3 out of their 5 players from their roster. Riot made an exception to this rule because effectively they felt it was hindering players from their career decisions because effectively they found other teams to be on. So they have, I believe, only Yukino remains from the roster, which they won EMEA Masters with, I believe so.
Just to get this one out of the way. By the way, this entire season is completely invalidated. Whoever's the LEC champ, not being serious, whoever the LEC champion is, unfortunately, completely invalidated because they've literally just got people who off like teams who own like the same thing.
Oh right,
playing against each other. Yeah. And by the way, this isn't like the Korea like sister team where, by the way, the government literally audited. Like, you believe what you want, but the Korean government literally, Kespa, audited the fucking like leagues. It was its own version of the cabal. Oh, by the way, all those are like fucking dodgy as fuck. I don't care what anyone says. Like there was some really sus shit going on in OGM back in the day. Like if you want to count all of those things, but like just for memes, this season's a complete write off.
I actually don't mind sister teams. I think they add in a very interesting kind of like internal scrim meta, which I find really fun.
Yeah, but not when they're in the same league. That's kind of that's mental.
So,
Luckily, this team's probably dog shit, so it's not going to matter anyway. If this team was good, we'd have a problem. By the way,
that is one of the huge issues, and effectively, I believe the way that they are quote unquote solving this is they're having them play their very first match against each other. So as opposed to if you played the last match and there was qualification on the line, obviously a big difference happens.
Mental.
But personally, you know, if you think about it cynically, KC as an organization will want their main team to do better. So if there's ever a chance that they would lose to their academy team, there is at least an outside chance that they might do something about that in a match between them.
Well, here's the problem. Oh, we're scrimming KC. Okay, let's just leak the stats to KCB. So, because KCB are the bottom team, they're not getting to scrim the top teams, but KC are scrimming the top teams. I can just leak all of the G2 strats, Fnatic strats, Vitality strats, down the way, by the way.
It would be a different situation if every team in the league had a sister team like it was in OGN, because at that point, everyone gets that same advantage. It's very different if it's, in this case, only one team gets that advantage by being able to trade information with KC, which might give them...
by the way, it's a different sport at that point anyway. It becomes like F1. You like understand that there's strategy and you're going to block people with pits and stuff like this.
And that is valid as long as everyone understands that's the game.
Yeah, exactly. And as long as everyone has a sister team. But like to me, this is like just crazy. I mean, imagine like an Arsenal playing against like Arsenal under 18s in like the FA Cup or something. It'd be absolutely fucking ridiculous. Like again, the discrepancy would be so large that it wouldn't really matter. But I don't know, like in League, obviously, the discrepancy is probably less. Things like age and physicality don't matter, so you're not dealing with like children playing men or something, or at least not in a way that manifests negatively or positively. So I don't know. To me, this is like complete nonsense, but whatever.
Here's the inverse one for you. KC, by the way, we can just fucking theorycraft these because it's absolutely mental what they're allowing to happen. I know I have hijacked this, but just quickly because this is crazy, right? Why do I not just have KC throw the opening game because they're most likely going to make playoffs, right? And KC throws to KCB, and it increases the likelihood that both my teams make it to playoffs.
Yeah, no, for sure. That would be the throw to do if you were doing it. Yeah.
Exactly. Like I could just do that, and then any tiebreakers.
Especially because it's best of one single round robin. There are 12 teams. Top 8 make it through into knockouts. So I don't know. Could you see a load of teams? Well, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, the cutoff point has almost always been a single game. That could make a difference. Yeah.
Exactly, and this is what I'm saying. Like, okay, like guys. I'm not even someone who's crying that much about the system, about the ERL teams here. I think any system that introduces tier 2 to tier 1, like, because I'm so pro, like, people being able to make it through, I think it's overall a good thing. A little bit shit for the fucking franchisers, but whatever, fuck them, right? This is mental. Like, this is genuinely up here, like, the LPL teams, fucking, like... Just both of them trying to lose, so they didn't have to play the person in the playoffs.
Just before we went live for this episode, I was watching because something similar just happened in Overwatch in China as well. Because effectively, there's one mega established team, and basically 2 teams in a group stage realized that the winner would go through a second seed and end up on their side of the bracket, which meant that they would basically eliminate their chance of going to like a LAN finals, LAN event. So similar thing happened, where it's another Oscar night situation.
But like, that's what I'm saying. This is like that, like happening live on air, but every week. So sorry.
I mean, my I don't know. Like maybe this is like a bit of a dystopian take or whatever, because I think the whole thing that's happened in the off season with the franchise teams being mad at Los Ratones and etc. and like this format and the clear conflict of interest. Like I don't know. Again, maybe I'm just being dystopian or cynical or whatever. At this point, I genuinely just don't even care. I think this is going to be pretty entertaining. I'm quite looking forward to this weirdness that's happening anyway, for whatever reason. And that's overriding my, this is outrageous, and slamming my fist on the table. And maybe I've just like, I think I just, at this point, I care more about the entertainment product. That Riot were right all along. Let's put it that way. When
WWE,
they put that,
bro,
exactly
WWE.
when they put that PowerPoint up and they had the MLB on one side and WWE, and they're like, "We are here," and pointed at WMLB, and then like, "We want to be here," and pointed at WWE. At the time, as an owner, I was like, "Is anyone going to stop this, or is anyone going to jump over the table and attack this guy, or what's happening?" Now I'm like, "Yeah, let's fucking go, mate." I'm waiting for the glass smash and Stone Cold Steve Austin to come running down the fucking stage and take out Mickey X. Mate, I'll be all over that. So I'm in. I'm
actually, in a weird fucked up way, I just can't really like abide that. I think it's just way fucking like too mental, right? But I've never felt more invigorated for a season of League of Legends. Like this year in League of Legends is going to be such a shit show, right? With everything that's going on. There is only one way it can end. Like this is going to be such a fun year, just for pure comedic value of like all the narratives and stuff like that. And so, know what, mate? See, Kate, if I get to complain about these fuckers every week and just like theory craft my own fucking like behind the scenes. Like,
by the way,
that can be a thing.
No joke. Like if you're an owner and let's say your or let's say a board member, right, on one of these organizations, if your primary goal and your duty, by the way, I guess this only really applies with like, you know, public companies and so on, whatever. Anyway, if your primary duty is to secure the financial future of your organization, what all these teams should unironically be doing is banding together and creating teams which produce the most amount of outrageous storylines. Like, no joke. It should be ex-teammates against ex-teammates. It should be people that publicly don't like each other or have said negative things about each other playing against each other or on the same team, maybe. Like, that, mate, if you want to increase viewership, at this point, that's what you should be doing. And then maybe in summer, we're like, okay, guys, now let's all put the real teams together and see if we can do something at Worlds. But no joke, like, we were talking about this before the show started. All the domestic leagues in the West, and China as well, obviously, is grouped in here, are just trending massively downwards in a whole host of metrics. The only one that's sort of treading water is LCK, and that's in part because while maybe some of the national interest isn't what it was during Champions or OGN or whatever, actually more and more people are watching LCK from the West. So it's like kind of balancing out, meeting in the middle, and their viewership is still okay. Everyone else is bleeding really fucking hard right now, and Worlds is the only thing propping it up, so...
Good League of Legends will always override all other factors. Because eventually, all hardcore like fans are eventually like, I actually just want to watch good League of Legends eventually. And where does then go for that, Rich?
It's funny you mention that though, because T1's head of business development was basically saying that a very small handful of teams are actually currently profitable as well, and talked about a lot of these things which are hamstringing them
way.
all these sports.
Fucking hell.
So yeah, there was literally came out about, well, it was, at least there was a post about it on Reddit 5 hours before we recorded this. Yeah, T1's head of business development, Park Hyungjin, only a handful of teams are currently profitable, and talked about a couple of the discussion points about really high operational costs, IP limitations, which mean that it's actually very hard to like sell a lot of like genre independent revenue and stuff like that, and basically having teams having to move to a direct org to consumer kind of model and actually sell more team merch and stuff like that, because actually selling it through the game is just not easy to do, and a bunch of other things.
By the way, I don't even believe that at all. I don't think any teams are profitable. Maybe T1's profitable. I don't believe there's a handful of... Who are these handful of teams? They're not in China. They're not in the West. It may be T1's
I don't know.
profitable.
I don't know whether this is between like all esports or not, or whether it was just.
Oh,
League. I think in this case it was just
okay.
League.
If
this
it's
is
League,
the
though.
T1's head of. Yeah, this was like head of T1's head of business development. Remember, they're also active in a bunch of other sports, well, like Valorant and stuff like that.
I mean, if T1 are covering.
Tell me. What's on you?
I was going to say, if T1 are even managing to cover Faker's contract with their profitability, that'd be quite impressive. That would be a sort of more than 6 million merch per year. That'd be fucking impressive. Is that even true? Like, I don't know. I don't believe it.
You're meaning to tell me Fnatic, with Fnatic gear and the fan NFTs, right? And the fans buying a portion of, and the fans buying a portion. Oh, I don't forget, Rich. And the fans buying a portion of the team, and the fans also buying all the merchandise, and Reckless. You tell me they're not profitable? Let me go
Also,
check. Company's house. Oh, they're 9 million in debt.
oh,
Fuck.
you brought up a very important big picture question as well, Keire, because Fnatic's supposedly for sale. So basically, all those people who brought in early, got their NFTs or whatever, technically own like 0.0001 of the company. Mate, they're about to cash in on that big sale that's going to definitely happen. They're definitely going to pay out all those people who invested for
Right,
sure. They're
see,
definitely not in heavily
see,
diluted D shares. No way, no way. So,
Rich, you should see my folder. I've got about 300 images, and they're all just Fnatic stonks, okay? And I've been all the times I was predicting.
I thought you were saying you
Fnatic to
just
win.
saved JPEGs of everyone's NFTs.
No, so every time I was predicting Fnatic to win a final, and Humanoid and Razork and
That just
Cove
had
and
like
all
the
that.
same energy of like the government doesn't want you to know that the ducks at the park are free. I have 300 ducks.
And so I've just got like these like JPEGs, white backgrounds with a kind of like a watermark on them, and it's just a little Fnatic badge. It's like the stickers in CS:GO. You know what I mean? The stickers, like everyone's making money.
Keire, I've got a New Year's resolution for you. You need to up that to like 1,000.
But no, when Fnatic gets bought out, man, like the value of these stickers are going to change the badge, and I'm going to be one of the only people with what the Fnatic badge is. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to be like one of the last people with an OG Fnatic badge.
True. So yeah, secure your financial future, people, before it's too late.
That's financial advice.
Exactly. Not entertainment. Financial advice. Anyway, has anyone deviated from KC Blue at 12? Even though they're probably going to win the first game.
So the thing is, it's more a question of like what zone they're going to be in, because particularly like bottom 3, I think you could maybe interchange with different arguments, because of course one of the arguments would be, well, KC Blue beats well, no, they won EMEA Masters, and of course you've got the other EMEA Masters team and Lost Ratones kind of coming through, and they bowed out in semifinals. So you can make an argument to say that actually if they have upgraded or stayed on the same level or whatever, then they come in over them. But because they've lost 4 out of their 5 members, despite the fact that they have players like Camille who were in LEC last year, and a couple of players that like particularly like Yukino is a guy which I think is just really good. He's got it. He can be a really good player. I think realistically they're gonna be bottom 3. It's just a question of whether you want to argue it one way or the other.
Sure. But yeah, Keire, who do you have in? You have these guys 12, I assume. But who do you have in 11?
It's gonna blow your mind, mate. I ironically have Navi.
Same.
There we go.
I also have Navi 11.
Yeah.
Yes,
So-
Rich, we came together on that one. Woo!
So I actually don't have them at 11. I have them at 10, but it's like I said, it's effectively the same difference in the bottom 3, which way you want to argue it. So,
Sure.
So I'll go quickly through Navi, 'cause I really don't care that much about these people who are putting no effort into their team design, right? So Paris, I just don't think really showed enough in terms of development within the years he was there. Pobe is a 50% player. He's so unbelievably fine and serviceable. The problem is I know these are the quickest ways how is Pobe going to progress your map states? Does giving Pobe gold advantages turn into winning games of League of Legends? For me, no. Mentor is supposed to, from every single account, he's supposed to literally just be a typical weak side king, a European weak side king top laner. If that's not the case, correct me down below. But that's the evaluation of the analysis. I've not got the time to watch Mentor's career, so I'm just going off what people told me, and it's not great. Rylick, I have watched. I have seen bits of him. And the thing is he is pretty fine. You know what I mean? But it's he doesn't leave a lot to be inspired about, and there's so much of a jungle change that everything before just doesn't matter, because what you're going to be playing in jungle now, I would need to know him really well. I would need to know how good these APCs are, his assassins are, is his tank play, how good is that around objective? Does he understand how to read a team fight and evaluate I need to peel for my mid laner in this fight or my top laner in this fight? Is he even going to have the options? Also, I just think this team coming together is super hard. And then Sam D. So Sam D.
he was renamed, by the way.
Yeah, so Sam. Is it just
Samdi,
that?
and so he was Han Samdi, and now he's
Yeah.
Samdi.
So Samdi, people just call him like the mid of like mid ADC sandwiches. I know Veteran thinks he's like really good. He considers him one of the best ADCs in like ERL and tier like 2. But I don't know. I've not had like enough time to like watch and really deep dive into his game. I know he's like quite conservative, but that's about it.
Yep. Thoughts on this team, Nymaera?
The biggest thing which stood out to me is I don't know who's going to lead this team. And this is what we talked about. I try to remember if we talked about this roster just before we went to break on over the kind of like the off season and stuff. But that's only kind of grown with the way that I think about this team is that I don't really know who's going to be stable on an LEC level, and I don't really know who's going to be the person who's really leading this team. Particularly if you are a lower tier team with lower expectations and not that much veterancy, especially at a tier 1 level. You need someone who is the kind of personality that is very gung-ho and can kind of break past that initial apprehension. Weirdly, I think a guy that did that very well for his first split was someone like Marcoon. I think Marcoon was actually very good when he first came into the league in that position where actually, despite him being someone that, wasn't coming in on a crazy head. Well, no, he was good coming into it, right? But he came in, he just like was kind of so arrogant about it in some ways and so self-assured that he kind of carried past that initial phase of self-doubt. For instance, I think someone like Yukino might be able to do that for KCB. We'll see, right? But yeah, I think that Na'Vi are going to struggle a lot in terms of when there are bumps in the road. I don't really know who stabilizes, and I don't know who pulls this team together. So they're definitely bottom 3. It's just, I mean, guys, do you think this team could actually fall to last? Do you think there's a world where that can happen?
For sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure. Yeah,
I agree that like I think this rankings gets interesting from 9 up.
I think basically the bottom 3 are going to be probably the same for all of us either way.
So yeah, I mean, if those, if one was 12th and I have them 10th, I wouldn't be like, oh my god. Like I think obviously we're guessing to a certain extent, of course. For me, like I would say that Mainter is like slightly better than maybe the sort of I know you said you hadn't watched him much, Keire, or whatever, but then what people are, I think he's one of the better ERL tops. Like I wouldn't be shocked if he showed like an LEC level.
He was one of the big reasons that they beat Lost Ratones because he was just individually doing very, very well at kind of handling Baus.
But yeah, I just think overall this team just doesn't have enough of anything really. And the thing is, like you asked Nymaera, like who's going to be stable on this team? Well, I think Poby will be stable, but that's not actually what I want from my mid laner, who is probably like the biggest name on this team. Like I need more than that. So I don't actually think that's going to count for too much other than, okay, he's not going to run games down, most likely, or many games down. Cool. Is that enough to compete? I don't think so. Hansam D, I guess I'm not as high on him as Veteran is. I mean, I guess it's a truthful statement that he's one of the better ERL ADCs. Like, that's probably true. I still think there are a lot of very decent ADCs in LEC. I think that's where we are still pretty strong. So I just don't see him being a difference maker, let's say. Paris.
So here we go. One quick thing, Rich. Sorry. Do you think Hansam D could hang in the 6 to 7 range of ADCs in Europe?
He could hang. I just don't think he's gonna like.
No, but is that roughly where you would like ballpark him?
No, I think I'd have him. I'd have to think about it, but I think I'd have him lower. I mean,
8-9.
You've got Kazi, Upset, Ice, Yopper, Hansammer. Sorry, did I say Yopper? I don't mean Yopper.
Yeah.
Noah.
I can't remember. Noah,
Super, Ice.
Super would be above him as well. I mean, basically, the only ones that wouldn't be above him would be like
the teams that are above him.
Yeah, like Hazel and Yopper,
cool.
maybe. Like I don't know. But even then, like Yopper versus Hamsam D, I don't know. I'm not really sure. So no, he'd definitely be nearer the bottom. Again, that's not to say he's bad. It's one of the more sat positions. If he was at his level and played support, maybe I'd be higher on him. Let's say Paris. Paris has reached the point where it's not like I've written him off, but it's now you have to prove that you're good. It's no longer we're waiting to see the potential. It's like, well, you didn't show any of it yet, really, so prove it. Yeah, so to me, I don't like this roster on paper. Hopefully it's better than what it looks like it is, but we'll see, I guess. But yeah, so Nymaera, what was your 11th place team?
So my 11th one was Lost Returns. I put them at 11.
There it is.
So that kind of rounds out the bottom 3. Again, I think you can make arguments to put, so as any of these teams in any of them, you could take the angle, well, Lost Ratones only made semi-finals of last year Masters. That definitely doesn't bode well for them. The big thing which I take away from this team is very creative when it comes to thinking about the game differently later on into the game.
Yes.
You know, Baus obviously plays very, very differently, and with the power of proxying in the current season, that could actually be a big benefit for them. Maybe they can take a game or two literally just off of that because they've put the research in to do something weird with a new season.
But it's BO1, doesn't it?
It's best of ones, which means
So
you can't. Which means you can't get rid of stuff like your Scion. Well, you have to invest bans into it. You can't just play it. Well, you have to play it yourself. But basically, the fact that you can't deny all their best champions is potentially a big thing for them. My worry for them and why they are consistently going to be in. They would have been in bottom 3 somewhere regardless. Is the early games, for one, can be just disastrous. And I think when you get to an LEC level, teams are just at that level above in terms of organizing for that and punishing you when you make that mistake. I know it doesn't always seem obvious on an LEC level, right? Because we're used to kind of, shitting on them in the perspective of, I watch a lot of LPL, we all watch a lot of LCK, blah, blah, blah. Wait, we can do complaints truck, by the way, Rich. Just LCK. Anyway, but yeah, the early game, the early game is a bit of a worry. And the other one is this team really, really struggles when Velia comes up against like LEC caliber junglers. Pretty much whenever he's come up against an LEC caliber jungler, this guy has exploded. Yukino did unspeakable things to him at points. And yeah, there were points where, he was against players like Xerxes and whatever that really caused issues for him as well. That's the one thing which I think consistently causes issues for this team. Now, I like Velia. I think he has a lot of potential. If he doesn't shape up to the point where he can actually compete with... No, he does have potential. Don't you laugh at that? He does. I think he's actually...
No, I'm just sitting here thinking, another victim of potential, man.
Sure, absolutely. But however, there are even more players which don't even make it to that level of having potential. I think this guy actually does.
You're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
But I think the real problem will be if Velia gets ran over in a jungle matchup, I don't think this team will be able to compete.
I mean, I think the issue is, but I would say both of those things, but I'd reframe them slightly, which is that everyone knows Los Ratones' early game is a disgrace. It is an abomination. It is horrendous. And the story of Los Ratones and the ERLs has been ludicrous comebacks. Basically replicable, losing positions that they turn into wins at that level. I think the issue is not only as like a team will the good LEC teams just never let you get away with that. It's also because of how good the junglers are as well. Like, there's just too many good junglers in the league that are just simply not going to allow you. I mean, they're getting this far behind against random junglers, by the way, like just complete turbo random junglers. Even discounting the likes of Yukino and Xerxes and these other kind of players, like they were really far behind in NLC games, like with huge deficits. So if you're telling me that Razork or Elyoya or like Yike or any of these top junglers, Skewmond, I'm just gonna walk
Skewmond's
through.
Gonna do fucking
mate,
illegal things to this guy. Fuck me.
Yeah, Yike as well.
Yeah.
The top. Yeah, I think particularly Yoya, if he gets his hands on this, a good matchup into that as well.
It's gonna be rough. And even someone like, based on what they showed the latter part of last year, people like Isma, I think, are just comfortably levels above currently, and it's gonna be rough. So yeah, maybe he'll have some joy against Bukada, who I'm sure we'll talk about later. I don't know. But yeah, I just don't think, unfortunately. Obviously, I'm glad that they're going to bring a lot of attention into the league. It'll be cool to see Reckless try and play support against LEC bot lanes and see how that looks and so on. Nemesis as well gets to finally answer the Piper. But yeah, I struggle to put this team higher than when I put them, which is one place higher than where Nymaera's put them. So I'm actually the official Lost Ratones fan on this podcast currently, is how I put it. Although actually, I guess
it would be absolute cinema if they do find a way to actually make it work. It's just I don't believe they will.
Yeah, Keire, do you have Lost Ratones 10th?
Right, I really struggled with this, okay, because I think specifically in BO1s, they're actually better.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
The
better than who? Better than who though? Wait, wherever you put don't edge us, Keire. Wherever you put Lost Ratones. Let's hear it.
I'm really struggling, okay, with the placement of Team Heretics, okay, because I don't know the auxiliary parts, the new solo laners, Trayson and Seren. I don't know them. You know what I mean? So it's hard for me to evaluate Team Heretics, Rich, okay? Because I don't know those players, right?
Yep.
So you guys now need to like help me a little bit, right? Okay? Are Trayson and Seren like good enough to like resist like some absolute nastiness?
I think Seren is very decent. Again, it's
Seren's
always very.
Yeah.
I'll just say I won't say where they are. I won't say where they are on my list yet. These guys are miles away from the bottom, by the way, for me. Like miles away.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like they could have been liquid dog shit, right? And I wouldn't know, right?
Seren's been very hyped, but I think a lot of people will be a bit down on him because specifically his last series of the year was versus Lost Ratones, and he individually probably should have carried a couple of games and didn't. So that's
I'll
the
not
thing.
bat around the I'll not bat around the bush then. I've got Lost Ratones like exactly like where like I've got them on what's that 10th. I've got them like 10th. But and the thing is, of any of the teams that will randomly just spike and make playoffs, it's them because in best of one, bro. There's some absolute nonsense like that can be done in top lane in terms of proxying, by the way, and it's like I'm talking like 6 level leads, by the way, as in like your ADC is like level 11 and the top laner is like fucking level 15, level 16, like just Gragas appears out of a bush, like and your ADC just disappears.
Yeah, fair enough. So yeah, that is our bottom 3 then. Moving on to 9th. As I said, this is where for me I think it gets much more interesting because I would say up until a point, there's not really any wrong answers here either in this section. I will start by saying I'm going to guess that neither of you have this team here. I think I'm probably going to be on an island with this one, but I was going to say I feel quite strongly about it, which is actually just not true. I don't feel strongly about it. I want this to happen. I have SK 9th.
Oh, you're just a hater, bro. You are just a hater.
No, I don't have them there, but I actually am still deciding because I haven't said it, so it's not become true yet. I'm deciding between 2. So
okay. So obviously, part of this is, of course, it's all relative, right? You're looking at the teams above them. I'm looking at the upside. For example, again, I won't say where I have Heretics, but if I look at a team like Heretics, just so much more upside. I mean, I've got Ice, I've got Stend, who had a great year last year. I've got Seren, I've got Shio. Like, I have so much upside on that team already. And then I look at SK and I'm like, all the upside is massive question marks outside of support. Wonder, huge question mark. Skeens, hasn't played in LEC for forever. And what do I have to judge on him recently? Huge question marks. Leader, I would argue that Leader's actually not even that much of a question mark because last time I saw this guy play, he was running it down in NLC. So at best, monstrous question mark. And then I've got Yopper, who's never played in LEC, and I think Yopper is decent. I don't know if he's
you don't know how that'll look on the big stage.
He's someone who's always been loosely linked to LEC and always been in the mix to appear on an LEC team, but never has. So that has to still be a question mark. Even if of the 4, I would say that's probably the most positive question mark that I have at this point. And then Mickey, I don't have question marks about Mickey. But yeah, I just think this team, if I get bad dice rolls on 3 of those 4 players, this team is cooked. Like, actually cooked. And I think that's very likely. It's more likely than not that Leader will roll low. I would argue that it's more likely than not that Wonder will at least roll uninspiring, if not low. And then I need Yopper or Skeens to both roll high to even have a sniff here. Like, I don't know. I feel okay with my placement, but on you go, Keire.
So, this is the only team, I would agree with you actually, that's a little bit meta-contextual. Mid lane is Leader Town. It's side lane, assassins, out the fucking kazoo, and your loss in CS doesn't matter because you home guards everywhere, right? It's like Aurelia, Akali.
When did he last play that style well, by the way? Because the thing is, this is Leader's legacy, but he's been dog shit even on that stuff recently. Like, he can't play anything right now. Like, so what is Leader's world? Leader's world is 2018, mate. Like, that's Leader's world.
That's fine, okay? And then, like, Skeens is going to get to play, like, loads of, I'll make sure I'm not fucking going mental here. Is going to get, to play, loads of champs that he, plays. 1 second. Okay, Skeens is a little bit worse. He actually plays in Italy. Okay, like Skeens. Okay, Skeens is going to be like totally like fine. Wonder's going to be totally fine. Yopo's the one I know the least, and Mickey X is going to just get to sit in lane. But the Mickey X roaming onto the map is going to be like mega nerfed. So like how much he can help Leader if Leader is as bad as you say, Rich, is a little bit like nerfed. But like,
I can quickly fill in on Yopa if you want, because
you go.
so I will say I think there are better AD carries that have come into LEC and performed worse. I think someone like Jack Spectra came in very hyped and he was not great actually. You had who were the other crazy AD carries that came up? Matty. I thought he was. Matty was someone who I had a lot of hope for. He didn't do very well either. So Yopa, I wouldn't say comes in with that level of steam, but I do think Yopa comes in with a good amount of flexibility, because back when I was casting him, and this would have been years ago now at this point, because I cast him in UKLC, which is funnily enough, he was playing in the league at the same time that Skewmond was. So I cast randomly like Skewmond and Yopa at the same time in like tier 2 UK scene, because that was the tier below NLC at that point. But he was really good on various different champions. He was a good Ezreal, he was a very good at Aphelios, but he was also actually a very good at like Ziggs and stuff like that at the same time. So he had multiple strings to his bow. So if he does kind of end up being the guy that kind of just has to fill in the gaps behind Leader Town and kind of wrangling the draft around him, I think he will have the tools to do that, or at least historically has done. It's just a case of whether he can bring that to an LEC level.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, for me, with Leader, it's like, I know historically what Leader's been good at and not been good at. And right now, like, is it impossible the Leader randomly starts playing well again? No.
But here's the thing, I would only replace him with one team, Rich. So we're kind of like splitting hairs, mate. Because I would only replace him with shitters.
Yeah, well, anyway, let's move on then to, well, who do you have at number 9, Keire?
Shitters. Like what do you call it? That's it. Like I'm saying, let me have a look.
And I'm deciding whether I put them. I'm not gonna put them in 9 actually. So I have a different team at 9 from both of you.
That's fine.
But who does Keire have at 9?
Shifters.
Shitters.
He's the same. Shitters.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I completely forgot they rebranded. That just completely passed me.
Yes, not BDS.
Yeah.
Not BDS.
Not BDS.
Yeah.
Shitters.
Okay, I have them 8th, so I have them one spot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But we're splitting hairs, mate. Because the only team I would like replace him with is literally like, bro.
Is that the same conundrum, Nymaera, that you're dealing with? Which way around those two go? Or do you have
currently I have Heretics at 9.
Okay.
Because again, I have like.
Stabbed in the heart.
Yeah, I have them there. Although, I'll stick to my guns. I'll stick to my guns on that one actually. But what? Yeah. Well, we can talk about Shifters.
There's
first.
a new sheriff in town.
It was either going to be Shifters or Heretics there for me.
Yeah. So I think the thing with Shifters is that I mean, what's to be inspired by on this team? To me, I'm not going to pretend that I watched him a lot abroad, but I always felt, this is a personal thing, I always felt Trimby was actually pretty overrated for basically the entirety of his career in EU anyway. I'm not saying it was never good, by the way. Again, two things can be true. Two things can be true. He was good on the latter part of Rogue. He was good. But I always felt he was overrated. I felt his stint on Fnatic was monstrously overrated, especially after Jun came in afterwards and just played better. And it's like, are we going to talk about this guy in the same ilk, or is that what's happening here? And then obviously his time on Heretics was like, okay. So yeah, I don't know. Like for me, Trimby just does nothing for me. Nuke, unfortunately, I feel has just been on a downward trajectory of late. Like I'm not getting, I forget which years or even the good years or whatever, but I'm not getting 2024 Nuke. Let's put it that way. Or maybe I am. Maybe I will get 2024 Nuke, but I doubt it. Bukada will always, for me, just go down as the single worst pound for pound, or euro for euro, if you like, deal in the history of esports. Like, they're just so bad.
How much was it again?
250,000.
Oh!
I mean, to just do like the weirdest like juggling of pieces to end up with the worst of all the pieces and be out of
more
pocket.
Money than I've ever made in esports myself, by the way.
Yeah.
For one move.
That is just absolutely bonkers. Like BDS did a really amazing job of like slowly downgrading their roster like off season somehow. Rooster, I know that, Nymaera has been a proponent of like we should be a bit more patient with this guy because maybe he is good, he showed a few good things or whatever. Maybe it's just a difficult situation to come into. Sure, I can grant that. Doesn't help me put them much higher on this list, but I can still grant that. So yeah, I don't know. I just can't imagine this team does anything interesting. The reason they're above the teams that they're above is that if you get high dice rolls on a couple of these pieces, they should just be better. If you get the best version of Nuke and the best version of Trimby, even though I think Trimby's a bit overrated or has been, then that's a better team than any of the ones below them. So that's why they sit where they sit for me.
What about Paddock? Do you know him?
I don't know much about him at all, so I'm making guesses based on limited info.
That's fine. So I can tell you a little bit about Paddock. So Paddock's part of like the legendary now KT's Challengers team that had like three generational like level players on it, like the mid jungle and then the ADC. And then obviously the team's just been like stripped for parts as what happens. You know what I mean? That's just like what happens to those types of teams. And they ended up with a Paddock. He's actually pretty good, by the way. Like, how would I describe Paddock? Better ice. There you go. He's a better version of ice. He's better at like
what stat stick? Just putting out the damage at the right points. Or?
Yeah, but he's also like got like a fucking. He's also got like a really like. He's actually also got like a really decent bag in terms of like. I'd say his Aphelios is worse than Ice's. But then everything else is basically better. He's better at poke champions. He's way better at like summoner, like using his like summoner spells and like the correct fight to try and like turn the game. He's got a pretty demonic Caitlyn, by the way. Caitlyn's fucking no joke, by the way. He'll put numbers on you. Try to think of anything else about this guy. Oh yeah, Callista. It's like, I know Callista isn't like the hanging of the month. This guy's like pretty mega on Callista. So like, you know what I mean? This guy's got like a pretty fucking
deep
like
bag of tricks.
Yeah. For like, you know what I mean? I would never say this guy is like the only thing. Okay, here's the weirdest thing about him. Okay, he's one of the only people I've ever seen who, as good as he is, he might make some of the worst learning decisions I've ever seen. Like in terms of like he has it in control. He's like, 2 kills up or something, right? And then he'll like try and turn it dive and lose all his like sums, and then like die and feed the shutdown, and then he'll be down like 300 gold. That's his like biggest weakness. But he's very good. Upgrade on ice.
Okay. So
my worry for this. Yeah, my worry for this is jungle, because like I look at the junglers which are kind of hanging around now, and I just don't think Bukata is going to be getting the leg over on them. Yeah, I probably view Brewster a little better. I'm hoping that Trimby can add a bit more of a semblance of objective setup to this team, which Nuke can then use. Because Nuke was actually, I think we'll all agree, actually had a pretty good year again. Actually, he was pretty much the only part of this team which ended up being relevant towards the end of things. I think if Paddock and Trimby can also be
think
a
Nuke
winning
had a
lane,
good year this year just gone?
I think he was the only person I could look at on that team and go like, well, he's still trying. I think that he kind of crashed and burned at the end, but I think he was the only he's more like, I don't think he had a great year. I think he was the only thing keeping BDS relevant, so I give that more value. I still think his previous years were probably better. I remember some things, like for instance, when he had a Jace game or two, he was doing very well on that. And he had 1 or 2 very good kind of Victor games here and there too, I seem to remember. Like, it wasn't like an all-timer, but it's more like in the situation he was put with a team which didn't have the Dragon setup it had before. They never really found out how to play objectives in the way they needed to. I give him more value playing off of a platform that clearly wasn't functional. I'm hoping Trimby can add more of that platform back, especially if him and Paddock can be consistently winning lane and then Trimby moves more confidently about the map, because yeah, I think there's some words to say, Trimby probably has had a bit of there's a lot of like rose-tinted glasses with him. I think he is still a very confident, engaged player, and we even saw that at Worlds. He had that awesome minion taxi game in mid lane on Alistar against PSG talent. By the way, he was like the last games that fucking Caster and Maple maybe ever played in their careers, because obviously that all exploded, but they got knocked out by Vivo Keydstars. So Trimby sending their careers to the afterlife. But yeah, I think that Trimby is still going to be a leg up on Paris, who really struggle to make an impact. So,
Trimby can play every kind of champion as well. He's obviously famously good on enchanters, like not just engage. So yeah, no, I agree with that. Again, multiple things can be true. I think Trimby's always been a decent player. I just think that we went too overboard at different moments of his career.
Yeah, and I think the point where, because I'm kind of like shadow boxing Shifters versus Heretics, because that's the two which I think could be close together. I think jungle support, I think really jungle is worse than Heretics, but I actually think a lot of their carry roles are just better. And I think particularly with how lanes are staying in lane more now, and now it's actually a little bit more about individual agency for the laners, because jungle in particular has lost a lot of power in this season compared to previous ones because of various changes in the off season, really, and the new season coming through. I think Shifters for me are like just a hair above them, but I guess we'll see, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Heretics were obviously your team.
They're my
in that position. So yeah, again, just to summarize why I had them higher. I mean, I think at this point, just because he's gone and then come back, and in the meantime, Stend has played well, I would give, for example, them the edge in support, just based on recency bias, what I've seen lately. I was very impressed with Stend. Ice, I think it's just a good bot lane. I think we were all, regardless of how strong a team that they will end up being, I think we were all quite complimentary of how Heretics approached the offseason, because a lot of logical moves were made. And the team, whether or not they end up being good or not, like, they gave themselves a chance to be good. Let's put it that way, at least. Like, you've got a very solid support that you know what you're going to get from. Same with AD carry. So your bot lane, in theory, should be like pretty solid. Shio, we know what we're going to get from Shio. Definitely one of the better junglers in the league from last year. And then obviously your two gambles, the solo laners. Seren, I think, is a very good gamble. Obviously, maybe that will be proved to be a bad gamble. But I think, again, a lot of logic. He's a rookie, has a lot of very promising attributes. And I think he's just a good mid laner. I think he'll end up being a mid-tier mid laner in the league, if I had to guess. Tracing, I don't know as much about, so that would be where more of the question mark would be for me. Or I feel like my read on him isn't as much as it is on Tracing, on Seren. I think, apart from anything else, it's kind of how the game is just broadcast in general as well. Like, I feel like you get a much better idea of what mid laners are doing most of the time than top laners. I don't know if that's just like a me problem, but I feel like the camera spends way more time in mid, and you're way more focused on what's happening as a result of what's mid doing than top lane. So yeah, I feel I have a better read on him, but I don't know. I mean, Keire, sorry, Nymaera, like, gonna say something?
No, I'm just having a stupid thought that his name is basically the academy in which all of the Uma Musume train in the hit game Uma Musume. Yeah, that's it.
There you
can
go.
now move on.
There you go.
It's okay.
Keire, where do you have Heretics?
We got rid of the anime section. It's just leaking out.
Heretics is really hard for me to play. You know what I mean? It really is, like, because I watched them be in winning positions like so many different times and then like fuck it up and.
Oh, by the way, Heretics are sixth for me. I don't think I actually said.
Oh, okay,
well,
right.
So they're sixth.
Like, I don't. They're going to be okay, right? So this is where it gets really. They're in like the 6th, 7th, 8th range. Like, that's where they're going to be. So like, what position are we on now? Like, where did I have Shitters? I had them.
You had
9?
them.
You had them at 9. I had Heretics at 9, but
then Heretics go here for 8.
Yeah, so they're your 8. I think the one thing which I'd add about Heretics, by the way, is like I do really like the fact that we've reconnected Sheo and Ice, because I think that Sheo is really good at dragon setups and Ice is very good at performing at dragon fights with good setup.
Yeah.
Bluntly.
Okay, so if they're your 8th team, then who is your 7th team, Nymaera?
At this point, I actually put GiantX.
So did I. So did I.
Cool. So we're in that kind of like, we're in the mid-table murk right now.
Yeah.
GiantX are a team which genuinely pissed me off because they delivered for 1 week of the entire year in 2025 at that fucking Madrid Roadshow.
Yep.
They did nothing before or after that. I was actually very hyped for this team. I actually got to speak to a lot of the players at various points throughout the year, got to pick their brains. I think the potential of that team, that wonderful world potential, is actually pretty good, and they never deliver on it. They are one of the most anti-clutch teams in the LEC. They're still better than the bottom place team. They still have like a lot of players I think can perform in different matters on different champions, but like I just don't see this team performing when it matters to move beyond the mid pack. I do find it interesting that they kept the whole rosters together for a year though. That doesn't happen for mid-table teams that often.
And I don't think it should have happened. But the reason why they are where they are for me is because they have too many good players that are just simply better or more proven than the players that are in the teams below them. But they can't be higher for a myriad of reasons. One, because they're anti-clutch, although that's probably like at this point the least of it. They're just not good enough at playing as a team to win series. They're just not, like, against decent teams. They just don't have enough synergy. They're just Jackie's is all over the place. You don't know what you're going to get. And even that as a description at this point is a bit generous even. That makes it sound like sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. It's like, I'm getting more shit than good currently. Like, I know that the good is in there, but at this point of his career, do I feel confident I'm going to get it? I don't, really. I feel good about Noah. I feel good about Jun. I feel like Isma had a very decent year last year.
But that's just kind of from where he was, though. I think people really... He was the most improved player, right?
Yeah, sure. But the top... He's exactly, again, he's not good enough to elevate this team to the next level. The bot lane are good, but they're not so extraordinarily good to do the same. And the solo laners are like mega sus, I would say. So I think 7, that's why they're 7th for me. But yeah, where do you have them, Keire?
6th.
Okay.
I think it's not that like crazy. I think just like historically, like EU becomes like very like bot lane focused. So even though the top changes are like fucking crazy, I think a bunch of like the game changes like somewhat suits some with like Jackie's in the mid lane on the less mages, more assassins based focus champs. I think map setups are gonna like be a hindrance to them, but I don't have them like that high. I think them staying together and just like team identity is going to really help them. I don't expect them to outmuscle like many people, but yeah, I like it's a non-expiring. It's like I have them 6th because I know them, right, and I have Heretics 7th because I don't know 2 of the players. But I could quite happily accept that Heretics are going to be better, but I literally just don't know 2 of the players because I just don't have enough time to do like that research on like them. But I know the players on Giants. So
yeah.
Now
this is where it gets really interesting in my opinion. Again, I think we're going to deviate here. So 5th place. Because have we done Nymaera 6th? No. We haven't done Nymaera 6th.
So my 6th is SK, so we've already talked about them.
Wow, okay.
And I have them 7th.
Wait, you have... Okay.
I have GiantX than SK, so I just think that SK like have like they have more random punch-up ability in a more like flamboyant way than a bunch of like someone like Giant. They are more likely to have the clutch factor in the important games than someone like a GiantX. So,
are you ready for this, Rich? A 1 pro player demanding, right, that has people that he wants, right? Okay, come and play with him, right? Has been highly successful in European League of Legends. I can basically think of it like twice. Alliance went almost undefeated, 75% win rate. Frog and MVP won the split, right? And then the other time, Elyoya demanded all his friends from Spain come and play with him, won the split, crown champions once, like a bunch of top placings, went to Worlds. I think Mickey X is maybe not going to be as good as that, but I think that, people all coming together, all being picked by God Mickey,
cronyism activate the power of friendship.
But bro, they've got the largest economy in the world's built on cronyism. That one of the best LEC teams can be built on it too.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's not happening.
Were you impressed? Did you like that, Rex?
Yeah.
That was quite good, eh?
Yeah,
It's a good little bit, that. Yeah, good bit.
one thumb up. Yeah, no, that team's gonna suck. Anyway, in fifth, I have Fnatic.
Oh my God, Rich, we have actually held hands
Ooh, really?
so much. Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's I don't know, like this team and this team construction just feels so amateurish. Like I just the thing is, certain things are gonna not be within your power, or so far as they are in your power, you might not even want to execute on them. For example, why did you let Mickey X go? Well, they didn't necessarily let Mickey X go. Maybe Mickey X just left because his contract was over, or even if a player is under contract, if they make it so untenable that, like, by the way, if you keep me, I'm not going to try, which I know that sounds mental, but pro players actually do that sometimes, so that is something you have to factor in. Then you facilitate them leaving. It just is what it is. So people are like, I cannot believe Fnatic let Mickey X go. Just understand that it's not always that simple. My guess would be that Fnatic probably wanted to keep Mickey, although, as I mentioned before in previous episodes, all these comments coming out of the org from staff saying things like, basically, the players don't try half the time. There was similar suggestions from G2 about Mickey X, or in a similar vein, comments were made. So who knows?
And I'm pretty sure Grabs basically said that him and Mickey just see the game differently, and that wasn't going to work.
That can also be a line that's used as a proxy for this person hates me or whatever. But who knows? That would just be speculation. Anyway, the TLDR lazy answer is I think the 4 teams I have above them have so much more upside, like so much more potential upside. That does not mean that all 4 of those teams will be better than Fnatic. Would I be surprised if Fnatic insert themselves as the 3rd best team or something? No, I wouldn't. But I think when we start talking about these other teams above them, it's going to become clear why I just can't put them any higher. But yeah, Nymaera, what are your thoughts on this Fnatic lineup?
Me? I mean, I think they've somewhat side-graded solo laners, I suppose. I mean, Oscar at least had... We talked about this on the show before, but Oscar's a kind of player that would occasionally show random, like, upticks in form, and he was one of the people that could just randomly roll really good understanding of side lane or certain laning matchups or team fighting occasionally, but you could never predict when it was going to come through, and I think it got very inconsistent actually seeing those upsides towards the end, and you could argue throughout other parts of the career too. Emperos, he's more of a duelist. I'd imagine that he's going to go pretty hard in early lane. I think he will have a couple of games where he gets blown out or just misjudges the map, because that's just the nature of, like, getting yourself...
I got told he was bad Nak-Nako. How accurate is that?
Well, I think Nak-Nako is really good, so...
But he's bad Nak-Nako.
I don't know if I would have said that. He's a duelist. I don't know if he's going to be coming out with, like, all the creative stuff. I mean, he's a Vladimir and a Gangplank player, so I want to see if he actually pulls them out at some point, even if they're meta or not, because he is actually both of those things. And Vladdy, it's just a case of will we see him recover to the point where he's no longer a passenger? Because his last, the last half of the year on KC was just unacceptably bad from him. He was really bad.
Conspiracy theory, insertion time.
Yeah.
What are the odds that Embryos is there because he's Greek, and they think Vladdy was very unhappy during his time on a professional
and personal
level.
If he's not fucking happy, buy that guy a Gyros, like, fucking hell.
On a professional and personal level. I don't need to go and get a
dog shit top laner, like that.
And it's the Korean philosophy
I'm
of
distancing myself from my co-host.
you can't get one, you gotta get 2. So like,
I mean, for real, like, I mean, put it this way, folks. There was a big hoo-ha a couple of years ago when Casey had the whole French-speaking roster, and then you had MCoy having, like, all of the Spanish players coming in. So I suppose it has been a topic before in terms of getting same nationality players together for branding and or synergy and or communication reasons or whatever. they have played together on well, they played together on a lot of ERL teams. They were on an Italian team together in the PG Nationals, and they were in NLC.
Do I believe that this random Greek top laner is going to improve the fan affection for their team in this coming 2026 season, Nymaera? That is the question. Do I believe
No,
that
I don't
that
think
is
it's
the
for a
case?
branding reason. No, I think that part of MKOI and KC was obviously for that kind of identity branding thing, but I don't think this will be for Fnatic, no.
By the way, I actually somewhat know of Imperials. I don't know his pro game that well. I've seen like some of his like GP stuff because he's a somewhat famous
One trick, yeah.
Yeah, GP player exactly, and a GP aficionado. I'm more like joking about the whole thing. I actually think there's going to be a somewhat of a resurgence. My concern is I think Razork was one of Razork's worst years last year in terms of his individual level. He went from being like the definitive star, hard carry, unbelievable player of like Fnatic, and he really fucking fell off a cliff in my opinion. He had massive playoff problems. He was where they stem from, who knows? Like Upset and Razork just seem to make each other worse for whatever reason, or Upset, sorry, seems to make Razork worse for whatever reason. Whatever. I think Vlade, this is like a new fresh. I think you'll see Spring Vlade more often this year in the reset environment than you will see Spring and Summer Vlade, which I think is good. I think Imperials, like, here's the thing. Top lane of any role, when you're told someone is bad in Europe, even if they're like not good, how effective they can be can somewhat surprise you. Nobody here thinks Chase is that good. Right? Mad Lions got there with Chase. You know what I mean? You can get there with some pretty bad players. Like, you know what I mean? Fucking, it's just the way Europe has been. The fact that he plays like a suite of like champions that allow like isolated level advantages plus, you know what I mean, cross map. I know. I think that could be interesting. This team coming together somewhat concerns me. You know what I mean? Getting everyone on the same page. There's like talks about that at the Fnatic. That's where I have them kind of like lower. I think they're a bit of a mystery. But you know what I mean? I wouldn't be surprised if they like spiked to third. I just think there is like a real gap between them and the elites. Yeah. For obvious reasons.
Does anyone have any thoughts on Losper, by the way? As I am not educated on this guy whatsoever. Do we know anything about this?
Yeah, like I know of him from Genji Academy, like challengers. He's basically just like Korean player that wasn't going to make it in Korea, so he moved to EU to play in tier 2, and then now
that's what I love. Yeah. That's what I love to see.
Here's the thing, like picture like Korean, like in your mind, Rich. Okay, a Korean support player. Okay, who's like coming in. Okay, what do you think he's going to be good at? Tell me what?
No, sorry.
No. He's a default Korean support player, right? Okay. What's he going to be good at? Like, give me the first champion he's going to be good at.
Oh, depends what era we're going now. I would have said Thresh back in the day.
Aye, but like right now. Come on, it's easy.
What, Rel? Or?
Yeah, there we go. Like, so Rel, Rakan, Nautilus, Leona.
The things which have been meta for like the last 2 years, yeah.
Oh my god, I'm literally describing Jack's notes. What's his name? Fucking nose partner.
Jun.
I'm Check's notes. They have literally just went and got Jun, but not Jun.
Minus the Leona, of course, when it comes to Jun.
True, actually. But you get what I mean, like as in like he is default engaged Korean support player with relatively good engaged mechanics, but cannot communicate in the same languages and as his team, so may overextend at any given point in time.
The classic.
Very good. What's happened to what's his face? He's renamed like a million times. Execute. He's just not playing League now, or what? God, I don't know. Watching
didn't
that
he
guy.
He's in Brazil or something.
Yeah, didn't he? Because he got remember he got suspended for the last part of his games on Rogue, and he had the really crappy apology where he's saying, "I said like kill yourself, I didn't mean it."
Yeah.
And then he had like
in Minecraft
seemed quite it seemed he was like, "Oh, I just meant you should take the game seriously.
This is what we need. This is what we need more of in the West Zone, Nymaera. We really need to dial up the controversy to get the viewership
you need to
going.
Kill that part of yourself that isn't taking this
Exactly.
game seriously now, okay? And allow the animal that wants to take the game seriously to come through.
Korean Goggins, that's what we need.
I tell you, they're lucky I didn't do law, mate. I would have been some lawyer. Like, it would have been incredible.
Yes. I agree. Some people are definitely lucky that you're not a lawyer. Nymaera, where did you have Fnatic?
I only put them 1 point above in 4th, but that's just because my 5th place team is Vitality, who, despite always having great promise, again, are another team that just never fucking deliver. The amount of teams that this team has given me hope for and just completely failed to deliver on the promise is getting really high. I think technically Vitality should be above them. I just have that holdback. You know, Fnatic, at least they fall apart in playoffs. Vitality,
I was so close to putting Vitality like outrageously high, and I had to reel myself in a little bit. But I mean, this team has to be better than Fnatic, don't they? Like, I mean, the boys. I've got them 4th as well. But
it's literally, I would have put them there if it wasn't for that.
This team is just the boys. Like Nako, what a legend. Humanoid, what a legend. Kazi, what are we doing here? I mean, these guys should be number 1 if we're being real.
Bro, that team will just be pure BO1. This team, like 10,000 goals ahead. You go away, you go downstairs, you come back up. Enemy team has Elder. There's only been 2 Drakes. Right? Enemy team has Elder, enemy team has Baron, and like...
Yeah, actually, I actually think best of ones for this team could be genuinely catastrophic. They could actually just, in any given game, just hit the iceberg, the Titanic goes down.
I've actually got the perfect cross-show analogy. Back in 2015, or 2016, to describe EDG, LS came up with one of my favourite esports terms ever, and he described it as like, you have some teams, or like players, and what they are is they're just all muscle, right? They are literally just... So, but yeah, the way they won and the way they win is so dependent on their mechanical prowess and their ability to outplay you, right? That the strategic avenue, even if they understand it, will always be secondary, right? Because they have to outplay you, because that is the right, and
their
they are
DNA, their core.
Bro, this is the all-muscle team, as in they are so, like, muscular, the other teams will attempt to punch them and they'll break their hands, and they are just completely muscle, right? But the problem is in any form of flexibility, they might just tear themselves apart. They might just end up injured, like, ripped in half, like, because they've not got all the things that make up an actual human body. They are just they're just a pile of muscular fibre.
But I have to remind you that when the Mad Lions team that won back-to-back LEC splits won, everyone said that Humanoid and Kazi were taking on all of the shot calling duties between them. So in theory, they have the 2 masterminds of that roster, which had Armut top lane and still managed to win LEC. You know, on this team. So the shot calling should improve, is really what I'm saying here. Like, their strategy should be through the roof.
And they got like 5 new coaches to replace someday. They got like
so Mac is now basically the coach of coaches. This guy is like coaching any of the coaches within the org across different games, I believe, in coaching skills, and now Pad is the head coach of the LEC team.
What a way to keep your job, eh?
Oh my god, mate, I thought American politics was a grift, mate. This is crazy. Like, what is going on? Coach of coaches?
I think he's basically head of coaching.
Head of coaching development. That's his title. Exactly. Head of coaching development.
So he's coaching coaches, basically. But reminder, folks, like again, before this year, Mac and Pad actually had a pretty sterling reputation. And one of the biggest things we talked about with this team was, particularly when they had Hylissang on the roster, this team is going to be a case study on how good these coaches are, because clearly, from a layman's point of view, they were pulling in different directions, and that would have to be fixed somewhere off the rift. That didn't work at all, and there were several games across that year. Particularly, there was one which was going to qualify them for playoffs, where they had unplayably bad draft. It was the one which sent them into the lower bracket. That was the one that went into the lower bracket, where they had just the most unplayable drafts. Where the point where actually on the broadcast we had sound bites of like Kazi just saying, "Yep, no, like, oh, we back in Mad Lions, we came back from this, but our draft was actually playable then." And like they were actually like shit talking the draft, like on the mics and stuff like that. And that comes down to, and while players do add into that, the coaches absolutely do as well. I think these coaches have a shattered reputation.
Mac is a genius, though. I've just realised. Mac is actually a genius. Mate, this role, this new complete fake bullshit role, is the ultimate. I get to steal as much valor as I possibly want if people do well, and have zero backlash or take any blame. What do you want me to do? I can only coach what's in front of me. It's just some idiot who can't coach, and then how am I meant to be 3 steps removed from that team impact? What can I do? This is genius. This is pure
James
genius.
McCormack, if you don't make it, right? If you don't make it in esports after this, right, I've got a fucking job for you in interviewing, right? Okay, like I've got some interviewing skills because your ability to get jobs is unprecedented, pal.
That's crazy.
Absolutely unprecedented.
Mate, that is the classic. Like you get called in to be laid off, and then you're like, interesting.
You walk out promoted.
Yeah, I have an alternate proposition which involves a new role which doesn't even exist yet anywhere. And how about we pay me money to do that? How's that sound? How's that deal? Yeah, cool. Awesome. That's crazy. What a fucking legend.
Give it a couple of fucking days. He'll be at Riot, right? And he'll be head of coaching development and like global. And then like all the head coaches of all the in the world. Pad will be doing like seminars.
Just think of any like anything where it's like meet and greet or some kind of fucking get together or whatever, any in-person event, they're like, oh, what are you doing now, Mac? It's like, aren't you still a coach? Takes it, spits out a meet. Coach, I am the coach of coaches. I am not a coach. I coach your fucking coach, mate. That's what I do.
It's like, you know, like Gilgamesh is like the king of heroes, king of kings, and like all the Persian emperors were like the king of kings. It does have a certain ring to. I know the head of coaching development. I think they should have just really got out with it and just said coach of coaches. That would have
you know who else
owned up to it.
You know who else was the king of kings, Nymaera? Jesus of Nazareth. You know who kind of looks like Jesus a little bit? I'll let you connect the dots on that one.
By the way, on a more serious note, on the players, Nako, you've had a big breakout season. I need you to bring up the consistency. Right?
Yes, no sophomore slump, no second album syndrome.
Yes, okay, because we don't think this of any elite Asian player. This is the year you establish yourself as the best European top lane player. Because this season is like all around top lane advantage, top lane isolated duels, building up huge XP leads, okay? No excuses. By the way, because we don't give them to any other like group of players, no excuses for you. Limsass, this needs to be your like, I prove I was actually the player that I was in tier 2. If you give me the Ferrari, right? Because this is a Ferrari. It's an old Ferrari, but it is still a Ferrari, that you're not going to crash it. Humanoid redemption arc. The funny thing is, the Humanoid was technically still elite. He was still like, what, the 3rd or like, at worst, the 4th best like mid laner in the whole league. It's just like his lost games of like blowout games in terms of like playoff can be like a little bit like shattering. Karze didn't. Okay. A big one for Karze. Because Karze last year was supposed to be like, okay, even if the team's not good, you need to be showing yourself off as potentially the best ADC, right? Okay? You need to be like the person, like, and that didn't happen. So now you've got all these players, ex-teammates, you know what I mean? 300 new coaches, right? The coach of coaches, right? Okay, the rising sun is a new age. Like, I need the champion. I'm the champion of LEC level cards.
I think that every year we should just choose one coach to ascend to become the coach of coaches. Like maybe at LCK, Coach Kim, maybe we could just, instead of him leaving in disgrace from Gen G, he can become the coach of coaches. Eventually, Tabe's time will come. He will become the coach of coaches.
And then Flash just don't fuck things up. There you go.
Well, that's one of the things which really worries me is that I think that this team. The spine of any pro team is jungle support, and while I do like Linsus and Fleshy, well, no, I like Linsus. I think Fleshy has a lot to prove still. Like, I'm sorry, Fleshy was not great this year.
Oh, if Nymaera's dropping you, that fucking tells you everything you need to know. The Nymaera send a regard.
I mean, I like both of you. Well, one of you.
One of you.
Anyway, I mean,
okay, I think that is where genuinely this team could fall apart. Is Fleshy just doesn't know what to do on the map, and this team just doesn't have a spine.
I mean, Fleshy
could
should
genuinely
just
fall
be
apart
like Fleshy should have just have been Stend. Like, it's really what it is.
There is that. How the caveat to it is, Kaiser was never great after Mad Lion started to remove.
Was
some
never
of his key
great.
pieces.
Could have stopped there.
But he was useful because I think that Kazi and Humanoid did very well ordering him in lane and around the map. That's how I understand it anyway, because actually they're both very vocal in the right ways for supports to succeed on their teams a lot of the time. So I wonder actually whether Humanoid and Kazi being the veteran duo back together, obviously they have like very natural kind of like chemistry, however you want to put it, right? I actually think that Fleshy, if he's like willing to be subjected to just basically being the puppet of Kazi and Humanoid, I wonder whether he'll have a more impactful year.
By the way, small anecdote / self-promo or whatever. Or that wouldn't be self-promo at this point, just self-gassing, I guess. A long, long time ago, when an unknown player called Gistic, who later became known as Kaiser, was coming into sort of prominence, there was also a player called Labrov who was coming into prominence. And at the time, with me being one of the only agents who had any kind of ethical code whatsoever, I was like, you can't really represent two people who are trying to achieve the exact same thing in League of Legends in the same region, because it's a massive conflict of fucking interest. And I was talking to both of them. I was like, ultimately, what this comes down to is you need to take everything into account and you need to back the correct horse. That's what you need to do. And I will just say, at the time, I think there were more people on the Gistic / Kaiser train than the Labrov train. I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to go with Labrov. I think that is the move. Where's Kaiser at this moment in time? I couldn't tell you. I genuinely have no idea. I'm sure he's doing something in an office, or I don't know. I don't know.
How many LEC championships has Kaiser got?
I don't know. I'd have to find him in his retirement home and ask him. I think Keire, my boy's still pathing through a legacy. I don't even know.
Passing through a legacy of more losses than wins in finals, both playing with Caps. He's the only person to give Caps multiple losses.
more finals appearances and
I mean, it's just like
more coming down. Hey,
I mean, I don't want it. I keep these all year for Rich, just when he gets on his high horse.
I mean,
mate, I just want to say, Keire, like, serious shout out. There is no one that quite keeps receipts like you, and I'm not sure I like it all the time.
all I'll say is, after this year, we'll see who's more championships, won't we? And a career that's still existing.
Oh, well, he can't win one this season because of conflict of interest, so...
Anyway, moving swiftly on from what should be, I would say, everyone's favourite team this year, Vitality, because... You should want Vitality to do well, because if Vitality...
Yes, I want them to. This org is cursed. This org is cursed.
If we, get a cheeky support change, let's say, halfway during the year, and this team is, clicking, then that team has a very high ceiling. With Nako, Humanoid as your solo laners, Kazi as your AD carry, this is a high ceiling team, so we should want them to do well, because I think they could legitimately...
One last question on that, then. Because you're saying if they start clicking, they have a really high upper ceiling. Would you want to see this team internationally if they made it click?
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think internationally they have a good ceiling because we know what Humanoid can do against Eastern opposition. I think if Nako reaches the level that we hope he can, then you have a legitimate actual top lane threat coming out of the West, which never happens. So that in itself would be exciting. And Kazi, it's been, yonkers since we've seen Kazi internationally, but I'm
a bloody triceratops.
I think he could be. I think he could be good. So, yeah. Anyway, moving on to our number 3 ranked teams, because we all had, either Fnatic or
We've
Vitality.
talked about Fnatic and Vitality, yes.
This, again, I think people could go in different directions. I have gone for MCoy here.
I have too.
Oh!
Yeah. I've gone for MCoy. I think part of it, again, part of this process is obviously projecting upper ceiling. And I feel, to be honest, someone screenshot that for the Absolute Cinema. I feel...
Hey, Keire, what's Absolute Cinema in Scots?
Bro, that was a blowback from that atomic take there. I mean, flying across the room. Like there shouldn't be me here. It should just be like one of those nuclear shadows on the back wall there, just like.
Anyway, I think this team has reached its ceiling, personally. I think the only extra bit of ceiling to extract out of this is Jojo being even better than he was during the latter part of last year. I don't really see what is going to improve particularly. Now, you can get into all the nuance of like, well, the game's changed and maybe X player can take advantage of this or that. I grant all of that. I just mean like fundamentally as players, putting the meta stuff to one side. I don't think these players are like on some big improvement arc or something. I think we know who they are. Is my point. Yeah, go for it.
Two fundamental things which are meta independent. Mirwin's laning, that does need to have an uptick, and they did bring in Alfari as a positional coach, which potentially can help with that. In fairness,
technically he's assistant coach, but yes, obviously he will be. Mainly I know,
but basically, and he also was helping Broken Blade when he had a really big uptick in his individual matchup play as well. Because remember, we were like really down on him for a bit, and he then had an uptick, which apparently Alfari helped with. And the other thing is like Super needs to stop throwing late game. That's just one of my huge holdbacks with this. Is like of the top 80 carries in the region, Super is the most likely player to lose you a game right now, and that's just ridiculous. Of any top play, if any top tier carry in the region, Super is the one that is most likely to lose you a game, and that shouldn't be the case. We know he can be very, very consistent and very, very clutch in the late game team fights. This year, though, like he had just an awful run of form from summer into Worlds, where I could probably pick out 4 or 5 games where the game's on him. It's just on him. You know, the Corki game versus T1 where he just walks up to Kiana and dies. Before that, there were
the Keire game in top
versus
lane.
G2. Yep, you could argue that the KT game. At Worlds, he was poorly positioned when they started to fall apart there, and that was a single threat comp as well, where he was on the Nymaera, so that hurt even more. He had the Zeri game in mid lane, which we highlighted on the show in a previous episode, where again he dashed forwards into Xayah Feathers against G2 and then just exploded. So Super's a player which, again, I preface, he is still a top tier carry. He is just also the most flawed top tier carry within the LEC right now, and that cannot be allowed to happen. And it will gatekeep them.
I'm actually so astounded. Okay, Movistar, okay, are a flawed team, right? But we're ranking, right? Who will be the best team, right? Like, of the season, right? And Movistar are a pretty fucking good team.
They are, they are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Think about how good they are as a 5-man core, right? Across the 3 splits that we watched, right? They were, like, you know what I mean? They were 4th, only losing to Fnatic. Then they were champions. Then they were
second. They went
second.
Finals.
Yeah, second. Right. That's a pretty good team.
No, it is. It is. I just think the 2 teams above them.
Exactly.
I don't. This is definitely the point where I think the top 3 teams are good. They are solid. It's just that I have holdbacks about specific things about this team. I think they'll benefit from the meta being more fast paced. I think they'll definitely be a strong team. I do think they are currently the weakest of the top 3 for me, though.
Yeah,
because I think there's way more things that KC have to answer in terms of like variables than MCOY. And if MCOY, like here's the thing, MCOY have like a fucking fatal flaw as like a team, right? Team fighting. Their team fighting is just it can be pretty mince, right? And obviously it's affected by the fact that like Super sometimes, you know what I mean? He likes to find out what other ADC damage does. You know what I mean? He likes not only does
the FO part of the FO that comes out of FA.
He's one of those, like, he was talking to like what's his name? Fucking Nami in a dream. And Nami said to him that like devilish term, it's like your health bar is a resource, right? And Super's like, yes, my health bar is a resource, right? Okay. Goes forward, crit with 2 Jinx rockets, and he's instantly dead. He's like, I have expended my resources. I am dead. But overall, he's a pretty fucking sick player, right? I think everyone forgets how bad Jojo was in winter compared to how good Jojo was at the end, and how consistently good Jojo.
Yeah, Berlin winter diff.
Once Jojo got good, he remained pretty to very good for an extended period of time, and I think that through line is going to continue. I think Elyoya, like, bro, look at the jungle champion pool, right? Who can match Elyoya? Like, the only people who can are like Yike and then the person who's on the best team, right? Spoilers, right? But I think MCOY have got so much down. And here's the other part. If Alvaro is tied to lanes and he doesn't have to roam the map, he's one of the supports in the league that's okay with that. Like, if he has to just sit in his lane and, like, play out a lane, he's one of the supports that's, like, most down with that.
But the thing is just like, oh, who else apart from the guy who's in the team one place above him and the guy who's in the team who's going to be two places above them? It's like, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but
like that's why it's third. That's why they're third.
Yeah, but like the problem with that thing is like, but Yanko's got so many more like mysteries on his team, as in like Elyoya has played this team and has played this style already.
Sure, but it's about, again, it's to me, it's as I said,
Yike has never played the carry style on KC. The only time he's seen Yike play the carry style was on G2. He's never actually played it really
as I said, for me at least, it's about ceiling. Like,
for an extended period of time, he has the odd Lilia game, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Just that halfway house.
If you grant that Yike hasn't fallen off a cliff, which would be a bit weird at this point in his career and what he's done up to this point, then I believe that carry Yike is a thing and has a more exciting ceiling, and he's on the team that I have above them, obviously.
I get
Busio,
that.
I mean, we might as well transition this into like a top 3 discussion at this point anyway. Busio is like, was the best Western support in most people's eyes last year.
I think the most fucking overrated like players have ever
okay,
been.
well, but maybe that's where the delta is, like between where the teams.
No. I agree that title is like what you probably should have got, but that title is usually bestowed upon like Halisang when he's arguably like one of the best players in the world. Sure. Mickey when he's arguably one of the best players in the world, not just support players. Like he's
okay, but even if this time it's just a technicality, it's still, you know, probably true, or at least arguably true.
Yeah,
right?
I'm fine with it being true, but the scale on that is like one of these players is all the way up here, and then
But
here.
Either way, they have absolutely one of the absolute best supports in the league, arguably the best support in the league. They have a jungler who is very used, even though they didn't do it last year, to playing shitloads of carry junglers to a great effect that he did on G2. They obviously have fucking my blanking on names now.
Kana, who was arguably the best top lane player.
Kana, who was the best top lane player last year. Kalist, who is, you know, in almost everyone's eyes, a top 3 AD carry in the region. And then you have to add, and I wouldn't put as much stock into this as other people might, but like Reaped, who's had a very storied career as a coach,
that's true,
is on the team. And I think it's fair to say, I think I get the impression from internal and external noise that the coaching staff was not held in particularly high regard last year for KC. That, I mean, they were changing things during the year multiple times apart from anything else. So I think Reaped is probably going to be more respected and
put it this way, I think that KC's coaches, from what I was hearing internally, they struggled to figure out how to use authority and who was basically swinging the hammer. Really, they really struggled with that. In terms of like, who is the person who was going to shout at players to take it seriously, basically. And I don't know how much they're changing behind the scenes. Well, obviously Reaper's coming in. I have no idea who's actually staying, if anyone has done. Of course, they had the whole drum with Apples as well, although I don't think that changes.
No.
He would have been gone anyway. I don't think realistically that changes much anything.
KC had a guy already leaking scrims on their staff.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, mate! The stories write themselves, mate. I mean, like I didn't even.
Oh, the KCB, right?
Bro, I don't even need the red tape fucking meme of me being like, "Oh my god, guys!" Like fucking mate, like that. The cabal is self-evident.
I hadn't realized. Yeah. Although again, like reminder, that was like to bring this to reality. That was an Apple's thing.
Yeah,
and he's obviously no longer there. So we are very much hoping.
Bro, next thing you know, they tell me, "Oh, you've got the student of fucking Apples, Peaches, to replace us as our top data analyst." So it's like, oh yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, I'm sure Peaches or Oranges or someone will probably try and weasel back into the scene at some point. That is one of my 2026 predictions. But yeah, obviously, like the big question mark is Keire, or however you pronounce his name, who is of course playing a very important position. So of course that matters a lot. So yeah, I mean, this is not a perfect science. It could obviously be the case that Fnatic could end up being better than KC. That could happen. I don't think that's like unrealistic, but
I've got one for you, Rich. Okay, because remember, we can't have it all. By the way, we cannot. We all want to have our birthday cake. Our birthday cake is beautiful. It is large. It is Victorian sponge of a beautiful variety. Okay.
Do you mean Victoria sponge? Victorian sponge would be a bit
whatever the fuck.
rough
I don't
around the
give a
edges.
fuck. For the purposes of this like joke, I don't care, right? So we've had, right, Yike doesn't talk, and other people like pilot him. So we have had Kana shot call in Spanish, Caps mind control him, right? So we are now down to Kana is going to continue to shot call in Spanish. Busio is going to come in and just mind control Yike for us, who he's never like played for. And by the way, Busio's previous jungler was Inspired. You think Busio was mind controlling Inspired? You think Busio was telling Inspired what to do? I've got a bridge to sell you, okay? And then Kalast.
Oh yeah, where is it?
Yeah, Kalast, complete like rookie ADC. I don't even know if he fucking talks that much. There was no report.
You know,
of,
the
like,
funny
talking.
thing about that analogy, by the way, is like for like the flagship French team. You know, the Eiffel Tower got like fraudulently sold like 4 times something.
Me and Rich seen the Eiffel Tower together. I wasn't all impressed. I was like, we've got one in Blackpool.
I'm
pretty
happy
sure
for
it's
you
taller.
both, yeah.
What do you call it?
Oh yeah, the Blackpool Illuminations.
Yeah, the Blackpool Eiffel Tower. I'm pretty sure it's taller. But anyway,
Next thing you're gonna tell me about like the Burj Khalifa, the Blackpool Virgin, the tallest building in the world.
Just leave, right? But Yike is going to even if Yike isn't a talker, and the Yike agenda is the newest one, right? Okay, as much as I love it, I think it's going to be really, really hard to play that carry style with these two very lane-centric solo laners, okay, who really are quite resource dependent, and then Kalist on top of that. Like, I think Yike, for the first time in his career, is going to be really dragged each way. That KU might play a style, or he might be told to play a style that he has never played before, but. And we've all watched KU, or we should have, right? Okay, when we were watching LCK, it's he is very, very lane centric. You know what I mean? He's am I losing my mind here?
I don't think that's a bad thing though.
No, that's fine. I think against the field he will be above average at laning, but laning matters less now because you can just reset Andy all the time. You know what I mean? His power, his advantage of his mechanical skill and his ability to edge out lanes, it's just not gonna usually that would translate into more relative to the game.
I think side laning is still super important though. Yes, you can reset a lot, but I mean I still think that side laning is super important though.
But Kana's power in terms of his prowess wasn't so much side laning. It was the fact he would accumulate this lane advantage and then he would leverage it hugely at objective setups with Kalast and create vacuum of space.
Well, it was both because he was playing a shitload of Gnar and just destroying side lanes too at points, right?
In 2025?
He played a couple of games and okay, it wasn't too much Gnar, but there was some Gnar in there. I remember him doing that as a win condition.
Yeah, but here's the big one that he was always able to turn to was his nuclear and Bessa. Later on, it was his Jace. Yeah. I'm not saying he didn't play Gnar, he did obviously.
By the way, for viewers who didn't catch the off-season tournament stuff, in terms of jungle meta, which because we had a lot of that in terms of the conversation, the 3 biggest junglers I would say are, besides the ones which we kind of saw. So Qiyana's still there, Xin Zhao's still there. The biggest ones we saw before the patch change, and we'll see whether this keeps up. Malphite jungle, Jace, and Ambessa. Those 3 are absurdly strong in jungle, alongside the Qiyana and the Xin Zhao. Just to add color to the conversation.
No, 100%. So I think KC, I will agree with you. If KC comes together, they overtake Movistar. I think KC are going to be the threateners to win spring and summer. You know what I mean? As in, they're going to be the team that can challenge G2, in my opinion, in spring and summer. As in, overall, they will be a better team than Movistar just in this opening split because it's BO1s and the speed of the split and how fast it's going to come. I don't think they'll be better than them here.
Mm-hmm. So obviously, even though our 2 and 3 or whatever different orders, we all have the same team at number 1. G2, of course. Well, I guess that was going to be one of my questions for you guys is, do you project, or maybe this is the best way to do it, Nymaera and Keire over under on G2 winning one split?
I think they need to Grand Slam for it to be justified. So I don't.
But what do you think? No, what are they gonna do? Like, what would you anticipate?
I think they're more likely to. I think they're more. It's so hard to look at the rest of the season, by the way, and know. By the way, I said BLG were going to win the LPL, and then Fearless fucking came out. By the way, so I was like, and then I was like, T1 can't win with Doran, and then Fearless came out, and I was just like, brilliant, like just like completely change the way the whole game. By the way, we thought Fearless was only going to be for one tournament. Remember, one tournament. As long as the game stays somewhat similar to this, I don't think it will. I think it's safer to say they will not Grand Slam because I don't think the game is going to stay in this state. But I think they will win two.
I think they'll win 2. Yeah.
2 base. I think the lowest amount they will win is 2, and then as long as the changes aren't too crazy, I think they're more likely to win 3.
And another couple of questions. One, do you think G2 were right to keep the roster that they kept?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in agreement. I would
say.
say.
There's an argument that they could have taken Busio over Labrov. That's the one move which I think you can question, right? Because I think Labrov looked like he was capped internationally, pretty hard, right? Like he had some good games, but I think that his map movements were just not to kind of like world level standard. In the way that actually Mickey can be, Helasan could be, and maybe someone like Busio could get more out of that in an international level. So maybe you think ceiling there's one thing. However, I still don't mind that they kept this together. And again, I talked to some folks from GT because I was co-streaming from their office, and I talked to some people on the org side of things. And basically, I think the view internally is this was a development year for jungle support. They're only going to get better. And actually, I think that they did develop an awful lot. They started the year in a pretty dysfunctional state. I think it's not hard to see that. And they grew into actually a very respectable duo. And I think that they can get beyond that.
Yeah, I think that the thing for me, which would have me land on them staying the same as well, is like, again, people retcon Scumon's year for some weird reason in like very strange ways. When the season started, in my opinion, basically Scumon was good like all the way through. In different ways maybe, and he did get even better at points, but I think individually he was a good jungler all the way through.
Yes.
I think Labrov struggled at the start very clearly, and their synergy was not good at the start. I think while Scumon, as I said, was good all the way through, I think Labrov actively improved all the way through, and their synergy improved all the way through. So for me, it would have been a bit weird to then be like, well, they've had this big improvement, or not, together and Labrov individually have had this good improvement arc all the way through, and now we're going to start again with something else. I'd be a bit like, okay, bit odd. But, yep, go on. But anyway, no, the last thing I wanted to ask you guys about is looking at these teams, look at these... Again, I know it's impossible to predict or whatever, but I'm going to ask you to anyway. Do you feel like the LEC as a whole had a good off-season? Do you feel like the league looks on paper stronger than it did last year or weaker? What are your thoughts on that?
Top 5 looks better. Like, it's so weird because there's people like Navi, I'm not even like convinced they're even trying. I think SK is trying. You just don't agree with the direction, which is fine. Sure. Like SK is trying. You cannot deny they're trying. Like, they are trying.
Okay, I agree with. I would agree with that.
I mean, let's go team by team and let's give like a very simple like better or worse. So let's kind of. I'm just gonna go through like I guess from bottom to top. Yeah. Vitality better.
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 Yep.
Yeah.
Better. Heretics better.
Yeah, better.
Yep. SK better.
Yep, better.
Probably because last year wasn't great actually.
Yep.
Shifter / BDS. Better because they kind of sucked last year.
I guess. I disagree heavily with the direction, but probably better because it's hard to be worse.
And then Navi Rogue, arguably worse, but I don't know. That one I think you just kind of like put an NA. I don't think they're relevant anyway, really. MKOI, same. KC.
No, better because they didn't break it up.
Okay, sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. KC, I suppose you're going to argue. Well, I don't know. What was the argument for KC? I mean,
better. I think KC's better. Yeah, you had to get rid of thingy.
Because Vladdy was so struggling towards the end.
Vladdy. Yeah, I think it's better.
GiantX, they're the same roster, so much of a muchness. G2 probably. G2 keep the synergy together, arguably better. Then Fnatic.
Better.
Then Fnatic. worse, I guess.
Yeah.
Fnatic
So
worse for sure.
that's about. And then you've got the 2 guest teams, they don't count.
Yeah.
So you've
So
got
that
7
9 out of
teams.
8 or 9 out of
yeah.
10, you'd have to say they're at least trying to.
It just doesn't feel enthusiastic because of the nature of like the league. Like you don't feel like the floor is coming up at the same rate the top teams are like leaving the floor.
Oh, and then you got the broadcast team. They downgraded because I'm not on it. Yeah.
True.
But what's really crazy, to me is like, I just to pull back quickly onto this one, because we need to. I think this is like a really important talking point. We talk about it all the time. He's a big name in LEC. BB was fucking shocking at points last year. Like I'm talking like. There was times he was
around MSI.
down.
He was a criminal. Yeah.
Like entire championships being lost on his watch, entire international performances being blown out of water on his watch. Right. Top lane is a very, very self-sufficient, very, very powerful role this season. Right. And BB should be blowing people out the water. BB's got to put a year together where it's just with this team. Start to end, I could just say BB was the best top laner. You know what I mean? Like, to justify being on G2, because after if he's not doing that, you're now getting onto the point of the only way this G2 roster can get better, even with the shot calling of BB being a voice on the team, is to remove BB, or like Labrov, right? And at this point, BB's way more like established in terms of a known thing. And it's not even hate, BB's a great player, should always be in the LEC, but in terms of like G2's, this is crazy to say, G2's objective is to win international tournaments. That is the only objective that can exist for them, okay? Does BB accomplish that? If not, there has to be some change or like some direction. That doesn't mean you make a fucking mid-split, you kick them and there's nobody to get and you go get a shitty ERL player. What I mean is the sense of like the end of this year, even if you win all the domestic titles, but you don't do well internationally, unless BB's just like incredible, like carrying the fucking map, it's like, well.
Yeah, you know the weird thing about BB is his career. I mean, maybe this is just my take, and no one else really agrees with this. I actually don't have him nearly as high as you would think he would be historically all time in the West. Like based on certainly on resume, like the amount of domestic titles he has at this point would be like ludicrous. But again, obviously, this is showing my bias. Some might say I have him lower historically than Otto. Like, Otto only has 1 LEC title, but I think Otto's peaks are definitely higher. I think there were times where Otto was unironically one of the better top lanes in the world, which I don't think BB ever was. And I think that BB has obviously benefited from the G2/Caps platform for the vast majority of his career.
Especially in the Maokai top meta. People really underestimate how damn good Otto was in the Maokai top meta.
I counted it out. I've got him. I think BB is something like the 5th or the 6th best like top laner of like all time, like relative to like.
Well, in Europe or
in Europe,
yeah. Well, because you've got Soaz,
Wonder, and Otto would be my top 3.
Probably 3.
Yeah. Right, okay.
Your 4th? I mean, maybe Bwipo, right?
So no. The thing is like he going to like 4th, but then who's the other person I considered? Wait, what was it? You had. Sorry, 1 second. I've actually got the list. 1 minute.
I mean, I can't really
trying to think.
It wouldn't be Vizicachi or someone.
No. 1 second.
Sorry, who were the other 3 you're mentioning? So it would have been Odo, Soaz.
No, it's like
Wonder.
1 second. I had it. I had it down here. 1 second.
Normally he's already got these on hands.
No. I was thinking about this because. Hune, would you call it?
Hune.
If you count Hune as a European player, okay.
For his stint, he was in Europe.
Yes, I mean, but again, like probably Hune had the most extreme period of being like
fantastic.
Dominant.
Well, he was only here for a year.
Yeah, no, for sure. And even then, like I do think, even though weirdly, and I would probably slightly disagree with that article that Veteran wrote about it. I thought it was a really good article that actually it was called like, making the argument for Otto or whatever. But I think that Otto is actually perennially still underrated for how like good he was in his peak, and I think Broken Blade. Yeah, I mean Broken Blade's obviously a really good player, like career wise, but
I've miscounted just from like the top of my memory. So he's 4th, and if you don't include Hune, he's 4th. If you do include Hune, he's 5th. Obviously, he benefited. Like Hune was on like Fnatic, what do you call it? But the thing is like Hune was like guys, like Hune was almost beating the SKT 2015 that people consider one of the best teams of all time because he was so good at Rumble. BB has never been there's never been a version of BB that has been that good a player. Like as in like relative to standards. You know what I mean? Like I know the T1 lineup, he almost beat the T1 lineup at like MSI, but it's like I don't think he was the best.
He wasn't the reason.
Yeah, he wasn't the reason. Like BB was like actually like fucking incredible. Like he was off the scales, and he lost to a fucking strategic draft thing where it was like the jungle Nunu. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Mate, I saw Huni like lock in fucking Lee Sin in really important playoff games and win like because of his fucking.
But if you don't include him, I'm fine. BB fourth, but I think there is like a clear like difference. But let's say, like, if you like count the championships, because it's so hard for people to get by like all those championships, I just don't see them as like BB championships. To me, they're like Hansama Yike championships, or they're like Hansama Mickey X championships, or they're like Caps. And you know, his best run is like the one where him and Yank go crazy in that playoffs. So he's got like 1.5 where he's the bus driver, and it's not a full split where Huni was like the out and right best top laner for like 2 mega long splits.
Huni was also probably the best teleport user in the world, by the way.
One of them, Huni goes undefeated, by the way.
Yeah,
like everyone just forgets that one. Yeah. 18-0, like against a EU that was like very good,
pretty
to
good,
the semis of Worlds.
Yep, that was like the crazy Origin roster in 2015 summer with like Soaz being like still peak Soaz. We had Odo around at that point as well.
Because here's the thing.
Vizzy as well.
I know I've went on a wee tangent. If anyone like thinks I'm talking crazy, when you think about LCK tops or Korean tops, where do you put Huni? Because if you don't, where does Huni go in your list if you don't think of him as European? Because he definitely doesn't go on an LCK list.
Yeah.
Because he's not really an LCK player. Like Huni is, to me, is more of a European player that went abroad. He just happens to be like Korean.
If you're going like, I think if you're doing a best, as I said, if you're doing a best list over greatest, because greatest then encapsulates more things like accolades or whatever, then Huni for sure for me is obviously above BB, and he would be arguably number one.
But if you disagree, I don't really mind.
Yeah, sure. But anyway, off the back of that tangent, I think we will leave it there. We'll see what. By the way, I just remembered as well, because Vizicachi, that was the version of Vizicachi that won an MVP as a top laner, like either just immediately after or just immediately before. So yeah, that
2015 Chachi was really, really good.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, we will leave it there, guys. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll have the first normal, I guess, EuroLeague episode after the first bunch of games. Well, will we have complaint struck? Who knows? Watch this space, I guess. Anyway, thank you guys all for watching, and we'll see you next time.